I move that we authorize the county attorney to respond to the subpoenas issued by the Senate by filing a complaint in Superior Court and by sending a letter to the Senate as directed in executive session.
Thank you, Vice Chairman Sellers. Do I hear a second?
I'll second that motion, Mr. Chairman.
Well, I'll give it to Supervisor Gates that time because he's out there in cyber world. So Supervisor Gates, second the motion.
I move that we authorize the county attorney to respond to the subpoenas issued by the Senate by filing a complaint in Superior Court and by sending a letter to the Senate as directed in executive session.
Thank you, Vice Chairman Sellers. Do I hear a second?
I'll second that motion, Mr. Chairman.
Well, I'll give it to Supervisor Gates that time because he's out there in cyber world. So Supervisor Gates, second the motion.
I move that we authorize the county attorney to respond to the subpoenas issued by the Senate by filing a complaint in Superior Court and by sending a letter to the Senate as directed in executive session.
Thank you, Vice Chairman Sellers. Do I hear a second?
I'll second that motion, Mr. Chairman.
Well, I'll give it to Supervisor Gates that time because he's out there in cyber world. So Supervisor Gates, second the motion.
I move that we authorize the county attorney to respond to the subpoenas issued by the Senate by filing a complaint in Superior Court and by sending a letter to the Senate as directed in executive session.
Thank you, Vice Chairman Sellers. Do I hear a second?
I'll second that motion, Mr. Chairman.
Well, I'll give it to Supervisor Gates that time because he's out there in cyber world. So Supervisor Gates, second the motion.
I move that we authorize the county attorney to respond to the subpoenas issued by the Senate by filing a complaint in Superior Court and by sending a letter to the Senate as directed in executive session.
Thank you, Vice Chairman Sellers. Do I hear a second?
I'll second that motion, Mr. Chairman.
Well, I'll give it to Supervisor Gates that time because he's out there in cyber world. So Supervisor Gates, second the motion.
I move that we authorize the county attorney to respond to the subpoenas issued by the Senate by filing a complaint in Superior Court and by sending a letter to the Senate as directed in executive session.
Thank you, Vice Chairman Sellers. Do I hear a second?
I'll second that motion, Mr. Chairman.
Well, I'll give it to Supervisor Gates that time because he's out there in cyber world. So Supervisor Gates, second the motion.
I move that we authorize the county attorney to respond to the subpoenas
I hope that
issued
2 minutes
by the
you
Senate
had to wait
by filing a complaint
made
in
you
Superior
real mad.
Court and by sending a
I
letter
hope
to
it
the
made you
Senate
as mad
directed in
as
executive
it
session.
made me having to realize that crossing the Rubicon is our only option. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Brian Gregg. Some of you call me BG. Some of you call me Juice. Some of you call me from the bottom of the rabbit hole guy. Hell, there's even some guy out there that calls me a son. But today I am representing the United States of America. I'm representing the reality of your future. I am representing the truth. And I am here to let you know what is going to happen that will genuinely affect your life in a more drastic way than anything that has happened in your lifetime, regardless of who you are. Okay? Unless, of course, I can't really say that. There might be some people out there watching me that were in a war and potentially in a wheelchair because of something that may affect them equal or possibly more. But you know what I mean. We are here today to discuss not just the 2020 presidential election, but we are here to discuss the entire process of our country. And I want to make it clear that usually I do these shows, and I do these shows more so as a live stream. I'm doing it with the intention of, I'm doing this for my audience now, and if someone enjoys it later, then that's fine. I'm letting you know now that that's not what's happening today. I have every intention of engaging with everyone when you're talking and responding and making it a conversation. But I very much am making this video with the intention of being shared, being passed around, at the very least for the first part of what we're doing here today. This is going to be an old school from the bottom of the rabbit hole, okay? We're going to do a deep dive. We're going to look around. We're going to read. We're going to learn. And then we're going to end it watching a documentary. We're going to be here for a few hours if you're in for the whole ride. If you're not down to watch a documentary on what happened with this election, that's fine. I haven't seen it yet, so you'd be watching it with me. It's from the Epic Times, and it's called Who Stole Our Election or something along those lines. And I'm excited to see it, and I've intentionally waited to watch it live. But that's about an hour or so down the road. Maybe longer, depending on how this goes. Okay? We are at a crossroads in our history, the likes of which I could have only ever speculated and expected for most of my adult life, but I never imagined that it would come in this form. Okay? We are at a crossroads where we are in the middle of a war that is unbeknownst to most of the population within America. And it's not a bloody war, but it is in fact a war. And it's been going on in all reality, really thinking about what's happening now for a very long time. But it's been a war against the American people, so I'm not going to count that. I'm going to count as 2016 when we gained the presidency. And when I say we, I mean we, the people, gained the presidency of the United States, which we were never supposed to do. We were never supposed to have someone, one of us, representing we, the people, not the establishment, running this country. You know, imagine it like a tank. Do you ever think they let a civilian drive a tank? No. The United States of America is a tank. And if a good guy's driving a tank, nothing bad can happen. Except maybe bad guys are going to get stopped. But when a bad guy gets in a tank, well, then there's a big problem. Because he can do a lot of damage. That's basically what, in some senses, our government is. If it's under control of we the people and we're in control, it's great. That tank can be used to protect us from the bad guys. If one of the bad guys gets a hold of that tank, they can turn it on us. Okay? So you got to remember that. So when I make tank analogies today, that's what I'm talking about. But this is a war that has been going on for quite some time. And we are at an impasse because to us, to the Americans, we had an election, right? And, we'll go over this in a second, but it seemed like Trump won the election, and then all of a sudden it was Joe Biden won the election. And then you're hearing about votes getting shut down in the middle of the night and all this other good stuff. Hold on one second. So what's going to happen here is throughout the course of this hour, I call this show From the Bottom of the Rabbit Hole. I am going to bring you through a journey to understand that where we sit today in reality versus the reality that has been created for all of us on the television and through social media and through all these websites is far different from the reality that we're currently in, okay? And I'm going to explain that part to you like this. If you, living in your home with your family, are enjoying yourself and everything's all good with your family, and you guys are happy, but next door, you have a husband who's sexually abusing his family, raping his wife and sexually abusing his son and his daughter. But when you see them, everything's cool. They come to your house, they sit down for dinner, you guys hang out, you've gone over their house, your kids and their kids are friends, nobody's saying anything. To you, shit is good. Your reality is that shit is good. And he will tell you that shit is good and everything is fine. But the actual reality is, it's not fine. You just don't know about it yet. And then if you were to find out, you would say, oh my God, I had no idea. I can't believe it. He was such a nice guy. I thought everything was fine. I thought everything was normal. And it's because your reality crashing down caused that to happen, okay? So we're in a situation right now where the object reality and your reality, or when I say you, I mean us as we the people, are going to converge. And this is everyone. This is the lefties who are way over here, way off the spectrum. Then there's the general conservatives. These are the Trump 2024 guys. It's over, you know. And then there's these people over here who are like, we're going to win this in the Supreme Court and all this other stuff. And then over here, it's cross the Rubicon. Although actually, cross the Rubicon is going to overlap all of them because that is what's going to happen. And what crossing the Rubicon is, we're going to go take a quick history lesson, okay? And this history lesson starts with none other than one Julius Caesar. It's not Julius Caesar. All right. So, Julius Caesar. I'm going to highlight that. Oh, as we all know, Julius Caesar is, a figure from history. And what he's known for, I feel like at least with me, before you really do a dive on him, is that he was stabbed in the back. He was betrayed, okay? Which is, unfortunately, always a possibility and quite scary at times. Especially in this comparison that I'm going to make. Oh, son of a bitch. That's what I forgot to get. Hold on, guys. We need the power. We need the power to do the show. I moved the computer into the rabbit hole, but I didn't bring the cord with me. Hold on, guys. We're coming. So Julius Caesar, thank you for sticking with me, too. Thank you for working with me on this. Once we get this thing rolling, you're going to be like, holy crap, this is definitely going to happen. Okay, so I've come to this conclusion that this is definitely going to happen pretty much on my own. There are people on both sides. There are people like, I hope he does it, but I don't think he will. Normalcy bias. And then there's other people like, he's going to do it. I've realized that there is no other option. There is no other option, and all we can do is publicly and openly support Trump, that we need this to happen, and we have to publicly urge, like I'm doing today, that there is no other option. Okay? So, Julius Caesar, as you know, mostly known for being stabbed in the back. However, he was a general. And as you can see right here, these achievements was in the support of his veteran army, which he was known for great support, extremely popular, very much supported by everyone, a lot like Trump. Threatened to eclipse the standing of Pompey, who had realigned himself with the Senate after the death of Caracas in 53 BC. With the Gallic Wars concluded, the Senate ordered Caesar to step down from his military command and return to Rome. Leaving his command in Gaul would mean losing his immunity to criminal prosecution by his enemies. Knowing this, Caesar openly defied the Senate's authority by crossing the Rubicon, which is a river, and marching towards Rome at the head of an army. This began Caesar's civil war, which he won, leaving him in a position of near unchallenged power and influence. So I did that to explain to you what crossing the Rubicon is, okay? It is an irrevocable step. Now, I don't know if you saw the ad that I'll call the post on Facebook that I made. Okay. But if I look at Rubicon on the Merriam-Webster, okay, a bounding line or a limiting line, especially one that when crossed commits a person irrevocably. Irrevocably means irreversibly. Irrevocable. Okay? You cannot turn back. There is no going back. This is a declaration. Okay? And that is what crossing the Rubicon has come to be known as. Is we are doing something big. And in this case scenario, the Rubicon lies within the game plan that has been laid out by Trump over the past 4 years. The entire purpose of Donald Trump's presidency, I'm coming to realize at this point, has been about making America great again, but not by the jobs. And this is why I didn't vote for him for all this other shit. Not by the jobs and the wall and the regulations and everything else. That's great. We need that. The 100%, that is part of making America great. And I'm not downing that stuff. But I'm letting you know that none of it matters unless this next step is taken. Okay? And this is the game plan that he's truly laid out to save the United States and potentially the world. Okay? Executive Order 13848, September 2018, imposing certain sanctions in the event of foreign interference in the United States election. I don't like that one. Yes, I do. The one that's on whitehouse.gov, though. I feel like that's a little more of Trump's personal branding on it. I like the way his header is. So we're going to look at this one. Okay? I'm not going to read the whole thing because, again, like I always say, we're going to do a deep dive, but I'm not going to read an entire executive order that's this long and says things like, the Secretary of the Treasury, in consultation with the Attorney General and the Secretary of State, is hereby authorized. Oh, look at this. Well, that is the part I'm going to read. But the base that you need to know of this is, by the authority vested in me as the President by the Constitution and the laws of the United States of America, including the International Emergency Economic Powers Act, the National Emergencies Act, Section 212 of the Immigration and Nationality Act of 1952, and Section 301 of Title III United States Code, I, Donald J. Trump, President of the United States of America, find that the ability of persons located in whole or in substantial part outside of the United States to interfere in or undermine public confidence in United States elections, including through the unauthorized accessing of election and campaign infrastructure, or the covert distribution of propaganda and disinformation, constitutes an unusual and extraordinary threat to the national security and foreign policy of the United States. Although there has been no evidence of a foreign power altering the outcome or vote tabulation in any United States election, foreign powers have historically sought to exploit America's free and open political system. In recent years, the proliferation of digital devices and internet-based communications has created significant vulnerabilities and magnified the scope and intensity of the threat of foreign interference, as illustrated by the 2017 Intelligence Community Assessment. I hereby declare a national emergency to deal with this threat. That means that this last election was held under a national emergency. That's not up for debate. I'm not just guessing that. That is legitimate under the Constitution, under the president. This last election was held under a national emergency. Therefore, let's continue. I hereby order, not later than 45 days after the conclusion of a United States election, the Director of National Intelligence, in consultation with the heads of any other appropriate executive departments and agencies, shall conduct an assessment of information indicating that a foreign government or any person acting as an agent of or on behalf of a foreign government has acted with the intent and purpose of interfering in that election. 45 days after the conclusion of an election. Let's take a quick look here. Well, the election was on November 3rd, so this would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You guys can't see my calendar, okay? We'll do it this way to cheat. 45 days after November 3rd. Saturday, December 18th. What? No. November 3rd, 2020. Haha, Friday, December 18th, 2020. That, my friends, is today. Which is why I'm so happy to have this episode here of Crossing the Rubicon on December 18th, 2020. Now, going back to what we're talking about here, okay? This report is coming today. And the things that the president is going to be allowed to do, they are all contained within here. Again, I'm not going to read this whole thing to you. Nobody wants to see that, okay? And I urge you to read Executive Order 13848. Executive Order 13848, okay? Now, what you need to understand is he is going to be able to seize the property, all property of anyone guilty of these acts, including the covert distribution of propaganda and disinformation. Well, it sounds to me like there are a lot of politicians and a lot of media distributing disinformation and propaganda. This is going to fall on them. Okay? Now, a few things that I want you to realize here. How is this going to happen, you say? Okay? That's the next step. How is this going to happen? You're probably wondering, well, gee, I don't know how this is going to happen. How would we pull something like this off? What would it look like if we were to cross the Rubicon? Is that what you're thinking right now? Or are you thinking we're definitely not crossing the Rubicon? Is anyone making any comments, by the way, because I can't see them? If you guys are making comments and they're not showing up to me, yeah, we have some comments. Nick here. There's a meme going around that says the braided hair lady was arrested and seeking immunity. I saw that. Here we go. And it showed up on the screen. Perfect. I was getting nervous about that. Now, you must understand. I don't want to do that. You must understand. Trump doesn't have an option. Okay? Trump doesn't have an option. He's on Gab now. The Supreme Court has let us down. We have went to the Supreme Court, and what happens? Okay? As you know, I'm a clerk for one of the justices on the Supreme Court today. This is when they were discussing the Texas lawsuit, which, mind you, the result came out minutes after I went off the air last week. Minutes. Okay? Minutes. Because I started getting blown up as soon as I went off the air. Hal, as you know, I'm a clerk for the justice on the SCOTUS. Today was nothing like we've ever seen. Justices are arguing loudly behind closed doors. The justices met in a closed and sealed room, as it is standard. Usually it's very calm. However, today we could hear the screaming all the way down the hall. They met in person because they didn't trust telephonic meeting as secure. These are Supreme Court justices being so nervous about their phones being tapped by who, you ask? Let's just call them the people in charge, which is the Patriots. Usually it's very calm. However, today we could hear screaming all the way down the hall. We said that. Justice Roberts, that traitor to our country, was screaming, "Are you going to be responsible for the rioting if we hear this case? Don't tell me about Bush v. Gore. We weren't dealing with riots then. You're forgetting what your role is here, Neil. And I don't want to hear from the two junior justices anymore. I will tell you how to vote." Justice Clarence Thomas says, "This is the end of democracy, John." When they left the room, Roberts, the Libs, and Kavanaugh, which is also heartbreaking to hear, had big smiles. Alito and Thomas were visibly upset. ACB and Gorsuch didn't seem fazed at all. That certainly irks me by a lot and bothers me a great deal, almost as much as what I heard today with people not wanting to give over their voting systems. Now, we have this here, but this isn't really what I want to go with. What I want to go with is in here somewhere. Oh, Jesus Christ. This is going to be the show. God damn it. What I want to go with, I'm going to do it this way. Make it nice and easy. This is why I opened this chat. I literally started this chat to use as a tool. This is a fucking old phone. I just picked up a fucking phone I don't use anymore. There it is. So, now Trump, you need to understand, Hopefully after today, there will be no more CNN. Ray, I'm going to be honest. I don't think it's coming today, bro. I don't think it's coming today. I don't even know if it's coming in a week. I don't even know if it's coming in December. I don't know if it's coming before January 6th. I'm going to be honest. For all we know, and this is completely possible, they might literally get Joe Biden in front of the White House as he's about to be inaugurated. And I'll explain why in a second. But I want to drop this in here. Okay. Give me 1 second. This isn't just a meme. This is from Code Monkey, who is, I know, obviously doesn't sound like, some sort of official source, and it's not. But he's been working with a lot of the lawyers, and he's also one of the greatest computer hackers that we know. If you know more about Code Monkey, feel free to share it in the chat. But I'm just going to take a second to kind of run down and explain the reality of the situation that not only Trump, but we the people are in, okay? Trump is about to make the biggest decision of his presidency. Let me explain. December 5th, 50 BC, Julius Caesar was enormously popular and commanding an army of fiercely loyal soldiers. Who does that sound like? The Roman swamp wanted nothing to do with him, and in January 49 BC, the Roman Senate ordered Julius Caesar to disband his army and return home or become an enemy of the state. Julius Caesar, with popular support of the Roman populace, that's us, and the loyalty of the military, that's Trump with the military, marched his army over the Rubicon River in the north of Italy and became a legend in history. Okay? Now, Donald Trump is enormously popular and commanding with an army of fiercely loyal soldiers. That's us, the United States, and the military. The U.S. swamp wants nothing to do with him. Election infrastructure was allegedly attacked, and now he has his back to the wall. The courts have failed him. His own party has failed him. Think about this. We have seen the downfall of our entire political system over the last 45 days. We have been failed by every local court, Supreme Court, government official, Republican and Democrat, with the exception of a small portion. Okay? The entire system has failed us. The entire system. When people say there is a problem, you investigate. You don't tell them to shut the fuck up, which is what's been happening to us. Okay? Election infrastructure was allegedly attacked, and now he has his back to the wall. Well, we said that. Trump still has immensely popular support with the U.S. populace, that's us, and the fierce loyalty of the military, of course, because they took an oath to protect the Constitution with their lives. They are not compromised by China. China does not compromise your average soldier. He doesn't. It doesn't happen that way. There may be some generals that are compromised, but most likely it's not the case. We have enough generals in enough places to make the correct moves to make sure this is pulled off. Trump has EO 13848, which we just looked at, which allows him to take drastic measures and could potentially be used to restore the republic. Okay? So we are in a situation where the American people have been let down by the entire system. This isn't up for debate. Okay? Trump knows this. He sees this. He's in a position to potentially hand the country over to the enemy and just surrender. Or does Trump utilize EO 13848 and become a legend in history? Or does Trump submit his family to the mercy of the incoming administration, who will be hell-bent on making an example of them? Does Donald Trump want to restore the republic to greatness and become a legend? Does Donald Trump want to be known forever as one of the greatest leaders of all time? Executive 13848 is Trump's Rubicon. Trump needs to execute this executive order. It's not about does he want to. It's not about is there an option. As I said last week, civil war will never be an option because there is no realistic outcome which ends with conservatives and liberals exchanging gunfire in the streets as police stand by and watch. That doesn't happen, okay? It's inconceivable to think that, okay? The only outcome is that the executive order is executed. We round up mayors, governors, judges, senators, congressmen, local and federal, and they have tribunals, military tribunals, which is basically a court hearing done by the military. And this happens through martial law, which is the way Trump can execute this. Because what happens in martial law, right now we're all living under constitutional law, which is the law that you've grown up with your whole life, the law that the United States Constitution dictates that we, the people of the United States, have, okay? Which is, don't drink and drive, wear your seatbelt, freedom of speech, all of it. Every law that you've come to know is under the Constitution. Constitutional law is how we live and how we operate, okay? What's going to happen is that we are going to declare martial law. And the reason why martial law must be declared is because under martial law, constitutional law no longer applies, and now the military is the law of the land. Police are told to stay home and stand down because there will be armed soldiers on the streets, potentially tanks, bombers flying above. Okay? We will be guarded and protected. Communication will have to be shut down. This is going to happen so our enemy cannot communicate with one another and plan their escape and help one another. Okay? If someone was coming, if you absolutely had to make sure that someone was imprisoned, you'd shut down the internet, shut down the phone towers, shut down the phone lines, shut down the cable networks. You'd shut everything down. And the United States government and Trump already has access to the emergency broadcasting system. So once this happens, he will actually be able to broadcast over the emergency broadcasting system on every single channel there is. Okay? So we will see martial law. It will look like a lockdown. It will most likely happen in the middle of the night. You will wake up one day to no internet, nothing's happening. You won't know what's going on. You will go outside and you will see soldiers. You will see the military. They will tell you to stay in your homes. You might turn on the television and get one channel, which is an emergency broadcast, telling you there's been a national security threat. You must stay in your home. The streets are occupied by the United States military. You and your family are safe. Okay? When this happens, we will be rounding up these treasonous actors. These treasonous actors will have public hearings where the evidence of their corruption will be shown to the American public. This is difficult to believe. Even me, myself, as the person telling you that this is a foregone conclusion that this is happening, okay, almost thinks that this is too good to be true, but I don't, because I understand it's the only option. If there was another option, that's why he's pleading with the Supreme Court. That's why he's pleading with all that. We're watching everything fail in front of us. The Department of Justice, the FBI, everyone. It's all failing. Where is anyone's help? They have had Weiner's laptop, Hunter Biden's laptop forever now, and they can't do anything, but somebody ties a drawstring of a garage door on a NASCAR driver's thing, and the FBI shows up 16 people to investigate, but we can't get you to take action on Hunter Biden's laptop? Think about what's going on here. Our system has failed us. There is no other option. Trump has the ability to do this. This was written into the Constitution. This is process. There is precedent set to restore the republic from corruption. And these are the steps that need to be taken. I am informing you what has to happen to restore the republic. Now, if you're saying that this can't happen, well, then you're basically saying that Trump is going to quit on the American people and he's going to abandon us. And I refuse to believe that. I refuse to believe that. He doesn't have an option. He will be persecuted personally. His family will be persecuted. The military is loyal to Trump. This is why we are at a crossroads. Trump needs to know that he has the support of the American people more than he ever has. Trump needs to know that when he does this, he is making the right decision. Don't say he won't do it. I hope you mean when you say he won't do it, you mean he won't give the republic over. He won't abandon us. You mean he will execute the executive order. I'm hoping that's what you mean. Because I'm telling you right now that he is doing this. And I know Kathleen good enough to know that she knows what's up. She's not on here as an objector saying he'll never do that. I think that what she's agreeing with me. She's saying he'll never surrender. And I agree with you. There is a 0% chance that he will be surrendering this country over to our enemy. Now you're probably saying, but wait a minute, all this is based on foreign interference in the election. But we saw the video. These are people in America. They're rigging the election. They're counting ballots. The mass voting, Dominion voting machines, all the evidence that we've seen. What does this have to do with the foreign threat to our election? Isn't that interesting? Because the threat to our election, although it was executed in some senses domestically, it was being done on the orders of foreign entities. Why? Because there are foreign entities that do not want us to be the global superpower of the world, which we clearly are, and everyone on the planet acknowledges that. We are the global superpower. We are the force for good. We are the country that apparently, as I just found out yesterday by listening to some crazy Chinese whistleblower, which I might end up playing on here eventually, it was a great video, that we are the country anointed by God to correct the wrongs in this world and fight evil. Trump cannot give the republic away. He will not give the republic away. There is a 0% chance that he will give the republic away. I could say it with confidence. I will make bets with people. I have already made bets with people. Far more than I'm happy to admit to. But I have made bets with people that I plan on paying if I lose because I know I'm not going to. Because I'm that damn sure that we're not going to give up the republic. We are in, it's not even a crossroads. This is a paradigm shift. Okay? That's a word I like to use from wrestling. Dean Ambrose, John Moxley. This is a paradigm shift. Okay? We are about to amass control of the United States once again. Now, if you've heard this stuff before, and you're like, this is QAnon, and this is all this other stuff. Listen, I'm not a QAnon guy. I understand what QAnon is. I remember when QAnon first came out. I was on the Donald. I was reading. They were posting his posts from 4chan. I was following along. I was seeing the pictures in the Oval Office. You know, a real picture. Here's what I have to say. We work next to Trump. I get it. You know? Jolkus, A. LOL. I don't know what side of the fence you're on, but enjoy the conversation, my friend, because you're getting a preview of what's about to happen. You could tell your friends that you heard this guy on Twitch tell you exactly what was going to make the most bold and crazy prediction that you've ever heard in your life, and then it happened exactly like he said it was going to happen. So, this is us reclaiming and regaining the country on behalf of we the people. Okay? Nick Grout, thank you for the like. What's going to come next, though, and this is what's important, the foreign adversaries, China, also, as I'm hearing, Iran, potentially Russia, countries that will not be happy that we took out their people that were planted in the government by them to give them some sort of advantage. They are not going to be happy that we took out their shit, okay? Imagine this like you're trying to infiltrate. Now, it sounds evil, and none of us would do this because we're not bad people. But you're trying to infiltrate your neighbor's home, okay? So what you do is you hire a babysitter, and you say, hey, I'm going to pay you every time you go babysit an extra $100 to do what I'm asking you to do. All you need to do is go knock on their door and tell them that you ask them if they need a babysitter and tell them that you'll babysit for them for $50 a night. And I'll give you $100 to do what I'm asking you to do, which is tell me what's going on inside their house. Tell me about their kids. Tell me the layout. Take things and give them to me. And I'm going to use you to infiltrate their house and overcome their house. If they kick that person out and fire that person and get that person arrested for doing this shit, you're going to be pissed because that was money you invested into that person and now it's gone. That's an example of how foreign entities are going to react to us rounding up these traitors and putting them through this. They don't want the American people to see the truth. They don't want their own people to see the truth. And their own people are going to see the truth because these videos are going to be shared. This is going to be public for everyone to see. This is not going to happen behind closed doors. There will be no more secrecy. Everything will be public. And this doesn't mean trust the plan. This doesn't mean sit back and do nothing. Support Trump. Say the truth. The election was stolen. Show the evidence. Have conversations with people. Go to rallies. Go to Stop the Steal rallies. Make your face seen. Make your voice heard. Let Trump know he has your support. That's why I make these videos. This is me doing exactly that. And I'm getting the word out as best as I can. And by the way, like the video, share the video. Please share it. Get people in here. Get them to watch it from the beginning. Whatever it takes. People need to understand what's going on so when it happens, A, they're not going to be tricked into thinking somehow Trump is the bad guy and doing something evil, which they're already planting the seeds for, that he's a dictator who refuses to give up power. That's not what's happening, people. He's restoring the republic, and that was always what was happening. That was what was happening when he got elected, okay? I went and cast the first vote of my life in any election for President Trump in 2016. The first and only vote I had made to that time. I voted in 2018 as well. I didn't vote in the not 2018. 2020, I didn't vote in the midterms. I'm a bad person, I know. But as we know, the election was rigged anyways. This is the one that mattered. And that's why what's going to happen is companies like Dominion are going to be seized. Companies like the media are going to be seized. Companies like Big Tech are going to be seized. Journalists are going to be seized, arrested, rounded up, along with the mayors, the governors, people of influence, corrupt cops. I mean, you name it. They recently put out a list of 1.9 million people who are CCP members, who are infiltrated in our country, and they are in boards of directors of places like Toyota and Nike and all these other places, working for the CCP. In boardrooms of these companies. This is where the foreign influence comes from. Okay? Every company that was touting Black Lives Matter, China money. China wanted that message. Okay? That was China's message. So, what's going to happen is, when this happens, there's going to be a retaliation. I don't know what that retaliation is going to be. Last I heard, there was roughly 700,000 Chinese troops in our country, with even more at our northern border in Canada. That's a lot of troops. That is a lot of troops. And it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting. I can't tell you what the fallout's going to be. I can't predict the future. This isn't me making a prediction. This isn't a prediction. This is a spoiler. Okay? And I'm not telling you what the overall outcome is going to be, other than we will be successful and restore the republic. That's the overall outcome. I can't tell you what the road to get there is. I can tell you the road we're going to start down, and then it's going to take twists and turns that I'm not aware of, because I don't know what their reactions are going to be. I don't know how. I don't know what the volley is going to look like. Okay? With the volley, I mean you pass it to them, they pass it back to you. You make a move, they make a counter. You make a move, they make a counter. I can just tell you that the first move is martial law, executive order, round up the traitors, military tribunals on TV, recapture the media, national emergency, military on every street corner. Now, the reason the military is going to be on every street corner is we're preparing for an uprising. Whether it's the 700,000 troops from China, whether it's brainwashed Americans that are being convinced to fight against their own country because they think Trump, for some reason, doesn't have their best interests in mind. Not for some reason, because they've been being lied to for 4 years and manipulated by propaganda that was made legal by the Smith-Mundt Act in 2013. That's why they believe that America doesn't have their best interest in mind. But whether it's those people, whether it's Chinese troops, whether it's actual troops from other countries that are going to come into our country and try to tell us whatever, we are not going to allow that. Okay? This is about fighting the Great Reset. This is about fighting the communist takeover of America. This is about fighting globalism and a new world order. Okay? All of this is all symbiotic. Okay? It's all symbiotic. It all lives off of one another. It's a living, breathing organism. Imagine it like a cancer on our entire way of life. Okay? And it grows and it changes shape and it evolves and it covers certain things and it blends into certain things. Okay? This move is going to be, Jay Jakes, thank you for liking the stream. This move is going to be the shots fired at the New World Order. This is a war against China, and it will appear to be a war against China, and in many ways it is a war against China. But what China is the good son, is the favored child right now of the New World Order. Because we have Trump and Trump does not go along with their agenda, China is now being groomed to be the leaders of the New World Order. To be the leader and the ruler of the New World Order, brother. But that's what China's being groomed to be, the global superpower. And that's why they want us to stand down, and that's why they want China to overtake us, financially, and in some ways, literally. You know, if Joe Biden could have, if he could get his way and have Chinese troops come in here and talk about a deal with China where our military is a problem and we're going to lay off our soldiers and Chinese soldiers are going to police our streets, he would do that. He would do that. That's why they want to get rid of police. That's why they did. To create new police that do their bidding instead of police that obey the law and are, you know, their job is to enforce the law. Part of the thing with these draconian lockdowns is a lot of these edicts made by these local governors are not the law. Yet the police are enforcing it. And police should not be enforcing things that are unconstitutional. They are breaking their own oath. They are oath-breaking police officers. What's up, my man? Kevin's in the house. Probably on an arcade one-up machine. We are crossing the Rubicon today, Kevin. Welcome to the show. Now, Kevin Rotella, like the stream. I want to tell you to share today, but share this with your friends from the beginning because this is something where everyone's life is going to change, and for the better. For the better. This is a situation where we, as a people, are going to be so shocked and our entire worldview is going to change as a whole. And not so much me. I'm here telling you about this. I've been waiting for this day in my wildest dreams for 20 years, never imagining that it was going to happen. Okay? Never imagining that it was going to happen. And we're going to get into the story in a second from the election to today on how I got to this point, how I got so sure of this. But I never imagined in my life that I would be in a position where I'm sitting here telling everyone, hey, it's 100%. We're cleaning out the people I've been telling you exist my whole life. It's happening now. It's real. It's real life. We're here. And again, once that executive order is enacted, once we have the military on the streets, and this could happen tonight. I've heard there are reports that the report that we discussed earlier from the executive order is going to be delayed. However, John Ratcliffe, who is the DNI, which is the Department of National Intelligence, he has already stated equivocally that there has been foreign interference in the election. So you can already take it to the bank. There is a 0% chance that this report comes back as nothing burger. Okay? We have had foreign interference in the election. Period. Okay? So, with that being said, when this report drops, Trump has it in his hands. I believe it could be made public. Who knows? It will probably be redacted in some senses for national security because we don't want our enemies to know how much onto them we actually are. But when you have an infrastructure like SolarWinds, which was recently hacked, and apparently SolarWinds even has connections to our nuclear fucking weapons, were hacked. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? How serious this is? This isn't like a nothing burger. That hack was, and if you want to know my opinion on that hack, I'll give you two possibilities. It was the enemy trying to figure out what we know and what we're planning, and we, I mean the Patriots, or it was the Patriots because SolarWinds works with Dominion Voting and works with a bunch of other people, some banks and whatnot, and also some national security things. I think it could have been hacked, potentially almost as a false flag, to give further credence to this, so we can enact this plan, and so we can find out what's going on. Because basically, what if we were just looking at Dominion? You know? So who knows what actually happened. But the bottom line is the fact that this was hacked is, it cannot be understated. Be careful. They don't like facts. It's very true. Very true, Kathleen. And you know, if I'm on point right now, I know I am already. If I'm not on point, straighten me out. But from what I understand, from all the research that I've done, I'm on point. I think Trump is hoping for the proof of foreign interference to throw out the election. Trump's not going to throw out the election. It's beyond that. Throwing out the election isn't an option. The only option is crossing the Rubicon. The only option is the executive order. The only option is rounding up the treasonous. Thinking the Supreme Court is just not wanting to focus on it ruins voter integrity. More than that, bud. We've watched our entire system crumble. The system is broken on a fundamental level. The Supreme Court is refusing to enforce the Constitution against states who have disregarded it. This is a constitutional crisis. And if nothing is done, then we have no Constitution. But don't worry, because I believe something will be done. And so I want to explain how I got here, okay? So how did I get here? You all watched on election night, or maybe you didn't all. I was okay. You all can. It's on YouTube. You can go back and watch my election night video. And I had a couple drinks. And election night went... They never go good for me. It didn't go good in 2016 either. The exact same thing happened. I passed out from being too drunk, and I was terrified when I went to bed and hoping and thinking the worst, despite the fact that everyone else around me was telling me everything's okay. So on 2020, during the election, Mr. Guarantee, me and you were happy on election night. Yes, exactly, until it got bad. All I remember on election night is Ralph Bruno showing up and telling me he could see Trump's victory. And I said, no, don't say it, Ralph. It's not true. They're going to steal it. And he's like, no, I see it already. I can see it. I'm like, I'm not getting confident. They're going to steal it. The fix is in. I remember being very upset. I remember going to bed demoralized and defeated. But maybe I was pretending to keep up the happy face, but inside I was demoralized. By the way, Danny Bird, what's up, my man? Swen, brother, keep up the good fight. He knows. Danny Bird. By the way, how you feeling, bud? Danny Bird was a bit under the weather, so I hope you're kicking ass, my friend. But, till the AM. Yes, actually, Rami, I fell asleep with that stream on. I shut my light off, I fell asleep, and then I woke up and noticed I was still on, but there were people watching. So instead of shutting the stream off, I just shut the camera off and I let everybody watch. I woke up and there was like one viewer, and I said someone else fell asleep watching this, and I shut it off. But yeah, so that was my election night. And then the next day I woke up and I felt like shit. And I was hungover, and I realized they weren't declaring Trump the winner, and Trump didn't come out and say what I wanted him to say. You know, which is, sorry, folks, complicated business. That's what I wanted to hear, but I didn't hear that. Instead, I heard, I think we won this state. We won this state. We won this state. And it's like they weren't giving it to him. I'm like, wait a minute, what's going on? And they're like, yeah, fucking Arizona was called with 15% of the vote in for Biden, but we have fucking 600,000 up with 90% of the vote in Pennsylvania, and they're not calling it. And I'm like, wait a minute, this isn't good. Feeling great, sick all over the BS. I love it. Yes, he knows. So feeling great is all I want to hear. Hopefully you smell what I'm cooking. So after Election Day, I wake up, I feel like shit. I'm like, this is terrible. And I didn't post too much. I didn't say too much. For a few days, I just laid low. You know, and I posted this and that. I had people calling me, what the fuck happened? I'm like, they shut the votes down at 3 a.m, and then they fucking brought in a fuckload of ballots and rigged the election and gave fucking Biden huge jumps that went straight up and gave him fucking hundreds of thousands of votes. Millions all over the country in the middle of the night. And I couldn't believe it. And then, so a couple days go by, and then all of a sudden I hear people start blowing me up. Oh, look at you lost, Joe Biden. He's the president-elect. Joe Biden won the election. And I'm saying in my head, no, he didn't. No, he didn't. There's no way Joe Biden won the election. The votes aren't even counted yet. These states, no one even has all the states in these states. And then I remember also from election night hearing about poll watchers can't watch, and these people are getting thrown out, and ballots coming in at 3 a.m. And I'm saying to myself, Joe Biden won the election. Wait a minute. No. You tell me they stole the election? But of course that wasn't the case. That was the media lying. Anyone who believed the media at that point, I feel sorry for you. You're probably not here. You're probably on a very different page with me because you've spent the last 42 days believing that Joe Biden won the election and he's the president-elect. Okay? Not true. Not only has he not, he hasn't been. And he is not still, and he most likely will never be. I've never come out and said Joe Biden will never be the president-elect. I've come out and said he will not be the president. And I stand by both of those things. He may become the president-elect, still not become the president. But anyways, so a few days go by, Joe Biden stole the election. I'm panicking, freaking out. Then that Friday hits. And in the morning, I happen to see a little clip of a guy named Pete Santilli, who does a little, I don't want to say a skit, but he has a little segment on the show about ballots being watermarked. And I was like, oh, wow, wait a minute. The ballots were watermarked. Shit, that changes everything because that means that we could tell the difference between the real ballots and the fake ballots. Oh, this is great. There's hope. The Republic is saved. You know, we could find out where the fake ballots are, throw them out, count the real ballots. Trump wins the election. No harm, no foul. That didn't happen. It did happen. The ballots are watermarked. However, people aren't just agreeing to forensic audits of their election, unfortunately. As you saw at the top of the hour when I went live in Arizona, they were subpoenaed for their Dominion voting machines. And instead of complying with the subpoena, which people who have nothing to hide often do, they did the thing that people do when they have something to hide, which is they are going to appeal the subpoena. Why, I don't know, but it is what it is. Even further proof that what I'm telling you is correct. Even further proof that what I'm telling you has validity. Okay? So the system is broken. Oh, wait, so going back to where we were. So the system is broken, but the ballots are watermarked. All we have to do is get a forensic audit. Fantastic. So, and it's Dr. Steve P comes out and says, it was a sting. It was a setup the whole time. The ballots were watermarked. We knew they were going to cheat. We caught them. We have everything. People are getting arrested. It's over. And I'm like, wow, okay. And then a few days later, and I thought about it, and I went, we did more research because we know it was rigged. Exactly. Got great, feeling sick overall. Oh, yeah, that you were talking about your own BS. I was reading an old comment. But yes, we did do more research because we knew it was rigged. Okay? So, moving on a few days after that show, it dawned on me. Of course, it was a sting. Of course, it was set up for them to be caught. We knew what they were going to do. Why would we not just sit back and catch them? Why would we try to stop them and maybe have it work, maybe not work, when we could let them do it and catch them and then serve justice? But as you're seeing now, serving justice through conventional means isn't working. Getting the Supreme Court to honor our Constitution isn't working. Now, if you borrowed my car, that's a bad example. So the United States is like a tank. I talked about this tank earlier, okay? And we're trying to get justice right now, okay? And you're driving the tank around, and for 8 years, you watched someone else drive this tank around who was destroying the area around him, destroying the country with this tank. And you watched this. And he didn't attack you. He did a little bit at the end, but he didn't destroy your life. But you were able to get your way inside of that tank, okay? And you had 4 years to be in that tank. Now, at the end of 4 years, when you have to give it up, you didn't turn that tank on your enemies and fire. Although they've been firing at you, you were sitting inside the tank. They were shooting guns, they were throwing bombs, but they had no effect because you're in a tank, okay? And you didn't turn and fire. Joe Marcinko, welcome back, bud. Enjoy this trip across the Rubicon. So, they're firing at you. You're not firing back. Now, after them firing at you for 4 years straight when you're driving this tank, they think because they cheated, they have to ask you to leave the tank, and they expect you to get up and let the same people who were shooting at you get into the tank. You'd have to be an idiot to get out of that tank. Especially knowing that at the 11th hour, you have the ability, the firepower, the will, the support, and most likely the right to turn the tank on them and eliminate these bad actors. Trump will be eliminating the bad actors. Kevin, nurses that worked at the home took all the old people in, and that was in the 36-page report just released. I believe it. Holy shit. Florida 32 ounce. Stopping in to say what's up at work now. We'll catch this tonight. Cheers, bud. Please watch from the beginning. This is going to be a special episode. Share it. Watch it. We're going to watch a documentary at the end. But for now, this is what's important, is me telling you how we got here. So, I realized we obviously have a plan in place. And at this point, I didn't realize the executive order yet. I didn't realize martial law yet. I just figured he has something up his sleeve. Through the intelligence agencies, we caught them. The evidence is going to come out. It's going to be irrefutable, and the courts are going to flip. Okay? This is what I thought at this point. Not the case. All of a sudden, Dr. Steve P comes on 2 weeks later after that first episode of the show I did with the watermark ballots. Aha, fire episode. Thank you, Joe. So Dr. Steve P comes on, and he clearly states about the ballots being watermarked, time will tell. But I'm telling you right now, it was a sting. We caught them. Arrests are being lined up. People are trying to negotiate immunity and trying to negotiate pardons. People are going to be arrested. Shit is falling. This entire past 4 years of Trump's presidency has been a plan to remove the bad actors from within our government, state, federal, and local, and get our country back and restore the republic. And it is happening, and we are acting on it. And I'm like, oh, shit. So moving forward, a few weeks go by, and then crosses my beautiful little lovely eyes the 2018 executive order 13848, sanctions in a foreign election. Sanctions, what's it called? Imposing certain sanctions in the result of an election interference. Okay? So, I'm going to keep this open in the bottom here. Because nothing I will talk about today can be possible without this. Now, ask yourself this question. If you don't believe me, If you don't believe what I'm saying, okay? If you don't believe me, and that's fine. You have every right to not believe me. Usually, I tell you to do your own research because usually I'm speaking about objective reality as it has already happened. So usually I'm speaking about this has already happened, look it up. That has already happened, look it up. This is not true, look it up. I'm not saying that to you today. That's why this is the most important episode of this show that I have ever done by a lot. By a lot. Okay? This episode will be, I have no plans of killing myself, and I don't think they're going to come and secretly kill me. But you know what? God forbid if this video goes viral, I may get calls and I may have people asking me to retract this because I believe I'm telling you exactly what's going to happen. But I'm not the only one. But a lot of those other people are claiming they're getting threats too. Let's see if I get them. Make me famous. Make this video go viral. Make me get these threats. I will tell you. I will record them. I will tell you what happened. I will expose the people threatening me. I will not do what others do. I will not claim anonymous threats. I will show you. Okay? So, the executive order on foreign sanctions in the event of foreign interference. Google that phrase right there. If you want to see the executive order, also you can Google EO 13848. Okay? EO 13848. Google that. Read the executive order for yourself. Once I did, and I read the whole thing, I asked myself, why else could this have possibly been written? Why? I couldn't come up with one reason why this executive order exists outside of exactly what I'm telling you. They're outside right now. Imagine that, Joe. I could not come up with one good reason. Do you think he wrote this executive order for the next administration? Do you think he wrote this executive order so the next administration can claim foreign election interference and they can invoke this order? And they can take the patriots and execute them? No, he didn't do that. He didn't do that. He wrote this executive order for him to use because he doesn't do wasteful shit. Everything Trump does is for a reason. Everything. And that's not a QAnon thing. That's literally look at what the fuck he's done. He doesn't make nonsense laws or do shit for no reason. Everything he does has a purpose, and it's fighting globalism and fighting the New World Order. Fighting the establishment, draining the swamp, whatever you want to call it. It's the same people. It's the same people that 18 years ago I would have told you were reptilian aliens, and they still might be. The same people that 10 years ago I would have told you were satanic pedophiles, and I still will. The same people that 2 years ago I were to tell you were the radical left, Islam-loving, a communist-loving Democrats, and I still will. And again, this isn't an attack on Islam. And I'm certainly not going to say Muslims because Muslims are victims to the ideology. But again, Islam is a foreign set of ideas to our Judeo-Christian values, just like communism is. They are a drastic clash with our Judeo-Christian values, which is what this country was founded on. Okay? I heard a very intelligent man, I believe it was Mark Levin. No, it might not have been Mark Levin. I forgot who said it, but the 4 pillars of American exceptionalism, and I don't think I'm going to remember them now, but the first one is Judeo-Christian values. The second one is common law, which is that, we are given rights by God, and we are supposed to control our government, not have our government control us. I know the fourth one is free trade, and I'm forgetting the third one. So help me if you could think of the third pillar of American excellence. But those are 3 of the 4, okay? And the Judeo-Christian values are what they're attacking. That's why their entire objective with demoralizing us is to get us to fundamentally change as a country. Whether it's communism, whether it's multiculturalism, Okay? Why don't you find out how multicultural Islamic countries are? Why don't you find out how multicultural communist countries are, like China? It's not a thing. It's only a thing they use to bring down a free country. Okay? I have no problem with people from any other country, but when in Rome, do as the Romans do. Don't come into America and say, now you have to live like I told you. No. You come into America and you do things the American way. If I go to another country, I do things the way that country does it. That's how this works. But this, the crossroads, the precipice is, maybe that's not the correct word, but the point that we are at in history, okay, will forever be known as Trump's greatest achievement. It is the reason that Donald Trump will be on Mount Rushmore. There's no question about that. That's going to be like, as soon as this is all done, that's the first thing everyone's going to push for is get Trump on Mount Rushmore right now. There's no doubt about it. Take someone else off if you have to. Trump's going on Mount Rushmore. That's it. It's no debate. It's happening. So Trump will be on Mount Rushmore. The Republic will be saved. We will have a freer society than ever. The war will end quickly and swiftly, if there is a war, and we will be left with nothing but beautiful, beautiful freedom. Now, as far as me taking you down this path, I did quite a bit of that. I want to kind of revert back to something, which is what I wanted to do here. I wanted to watch a video today, and we're going to. And the video is a documentary that's put out. So I'm glad you stuck around. Stick with us some more. This isn't done. This is going to be a great documentary. We're all going to enjoy it. I'm watching it for the first time. Okay? The documentary is called... No, that's just a close look at the data. Donald Trump on Gab. We'll take a look at that real quick, too. Hold on. Where did I share this? Well, now it's making me think I didn't share it with anybody, but I did. Oh, no, I know where I shared it. I know exactly where I shared it. I believe I do, anyways. Hope it doesn't bring me to a live video. Hope it lets me look at my posties. No, I didn't do it. Yes, I did. No, I didn't. Son of a bitch. Well, thankfully, I sent it to people. So I'm going to go ahead and take a second to find this. But it's called Who's Stealing Our Election? Okay, and it's put out by the Epic Times. Now, I believe when this first started, actually, no, this was before I started doing this show. When there was a documentary they made about the origins of the coronavirus. Basically, all the research that was done from Chinese whistleblowers and American researchers on how it was made in a laboratory, which we know now. So, knowing that we know this, hold on. I got to look through a chat, but I got to look through the right chat of someone who I sent this to, because I know I sent this to a bunch of different people. It's all about, oh, here we go. Right here. Oh, that's my Chinese whistleblower video. We might watch that. But this is going to be way better. I think we should actually watch the Chinese whistleblower video, but I want to watch that after this. Because this is more important in the moment. This is more important and more relevant to... What the fuck? Where did I share this goddamn video? Oh, now I'm like really mad. Now I'm really mad. I'm going to have to look for it. I'm going to have to look for it on YouTube, and it shouldn't be hard to find. So join me on the search. You know why? Because if I can find it with you guys, then you can find it on your own and you can share it. Or you can always share this video. Doesn't hurt. But So the video is called Who's Stealing Our Election? EPOCH. Okay, and you're never going to get a fair shot without doing this. So over 20 minutes. Okay. This month. God damn it. Did they remove it? I will fucking go on the... You know what? I'm fucking right here. I'm just going to go on the Epic Times. Oh, you fucking serious? English Epic Times. Oh, yeah, I forgot. The site is basically made by Chinese whistleblowers. That's why they had such good information on... Oh, well, we're not doing me putting in my password today. Not today, little Johnny. Hold on. Get to look at my big face as I put in my password. Might not even be right. Nope. Son of a bitch. Hold on. Son of a bitch, man. I was grossly unprepared for this. I wasn't really. I was prepared. I just thought I was going to have the fucking video, man. How did I not have this fucking video? I fucking just shared it with myself. Chinese whistleblowers. Everything but what the fuck I want. Everything but my goddamn video. Oh, no, hold on. We're almost there. We're almost there. Ratcliffe confirms election interference. Peter Navarro, past couple days. I need to get back 1 or 2 more days. We're almost there. Son of a bitch. I'm just going the Epic Times. I'm getting my fucking thing. Thank you for sticking with us. This documentary is going to be worth it. I have to sign in to make it work, obviously, because in a situation like this, this is a pay site. I do pay them. It's $1 for 2 months at the beginning. This is an opportunity for a break. Go get your popcorn. Go do whatever it is that you want to do. Get a drink. We're going to be here for a while. Once I start it, I'm probably going to get up as well. There it is. Okay. And we're in. Okay. Yes, save. I don't know why it didn't fucking work. But entertainment. I'm already subscribed. Our story premium. We're just going to go to search. STEALING hour. The case for Trump to invoke Insurrection Act to restore election integrity. They are talking about this. God damn it. Latest. If one of you guys can find this... Oh, now I'm fucking really upset about this. You know what? I'm just going to continue to talk as I look for this, and you guys are going to watch me do this. Ask me some questions. Sorry, back and forth. Taking care of kids. I'm sorry right now, too. I remember seeing it somewhere. Joe saw it, too. I fucking shared this. I'm starting to think they fucking removed it, and I'm not happy about it if they did. So, I am going to go like this. I am going to go to my page, and I'm going to look a little bit more carefully because I kind of just blew through it. Pretty sure I shared it. Oh, I'm such a fucking idiot. I'm so stupid. I'm sorry. I'm so stupid. I should have saw that immediately.
His team initially determined that at least 1.2...
I didn't watch it. I just scanned through it to see if it was a real documentary or just an interview. And it is, in fact, a real documentary. So, boys and girls, welcome to the show. Your election was rigged. We will be crossing the Rubicon. The Republic will be restored. And I want you to pay attention that the name of this documentary isn't How the Election Was Stolen. It's Who's Stealing America. Okay? This is going to be telling you who's behind it. This is going to, I'm assuming, I don't know. It actually could be entirely different. I have no idea. I'm just telling you what I think this is going to be about. Who's stealing it and who's going to be held responsible. Let's enjoy together.
That right now we are in a position where the 2020 election will be hacked?
Oh, without question.
There's nothing secure about the Dominion voting gear.
Many of the features of Dominion that are being characterized as glitches are actually designed features to help people manipulate the results of the election.
A month before the 2020 election, the parent company of Dominion Voting Systems received $400 million in funding.
Instead of running towards the light of honesty and integrity, Dominion Voting Systems retreated to the darkness.
Where are the facts? Is there any truth behind these allegations? We have to find out.
The world must prepare for a potential pandemic.
Called the surge a humanitarian disaster.
More than 3 million of us have already voted.
The year 2020. A most unusual year. It started with a global pandemic caused by the CCP virus, and its conclusion is with the U.S. election, with all eyes of the world watching closely. The CCP and the United States have become the key players, and they are polar opposites. My name is Joshua Phillip. I'm an investigative reporter for the Epoch Times in New York. In April this year, we released our documentary investigating the origins of the CCP virus that was watched by over 100 million people.
Great documentary. I loved it.
And I've been following the CCP virus on its path of terror, as well as other related events that have rocked the world, like the Hong Kong national security law, in the Chinese Communist Party, China-India conflicts, South China Sea disputes, and the Taiwan Strait crisis. I'll be doing again these live Q&A. My schedule, now packed with daily live shows and even more interviews, has just had to keep up with this unusual year. Then election season hit. The 59th U.S. presidential election garnered a historic turnout from the American people. Compared to the last election in 2016, 20 million more votes were counted. Emotions were high. We've never seen anything like it. On November 3rd, the thrill of election night, which only comes once every 4 years, was upon us. Yet after midnight, no clear victory celebration was in sight. Counting in key swing states paused. Donald Trump's campaign announced it would demand a stop on tallying ballots and take legal proceedings all the way to an appeal at the Supreme Court. And then, almost unanimously, mainstream media ignored the pending legal challenges and 4 days later declared Joe Biden the winner.
We've reached a historic moment in this election. We can now project
that former Vice President Joe Biden has been elected president.
And if that wasn't unusual enough, the most startling allegations, reports of irregularities at voting sites, began to surface.
It was disturbing. We just want a fair election.
I felt insidious fraud going on. I felt that
the allegations were not only questioning the fairness of the voting process, but even suggested possible fraud, of stealing the election. The U.S. is a beacon of freedom and democracy. The integrity of the U.S. election impacts not only the future of the United States, but that of the entire world. Where are the facts? Is there any truth behind these allegations? Is the election indeed being stolen? We have to dig in. We have to find out. On November 3rd, 2020, I didn't host my usual program. Instead, like so many Americans who care about the future of our country, I was closely watching the election results in real time, live, on air with the Epoch Times' sister media, NTD Television, during their election night coverage.
2020 has been kind of the year of unpredictability.
And by midnight, Trump and Biden had won their expected strongholds. Trump had won the key swing state of Florida, which has 29 electoral college votes.
If the trajectories don't change, Trump looks like he has a pretty strong victory.
Trump is so far ahead right now, it seems Biden doesn't have enough room to grow in terms of electoral votes.
Then something unexpected happened.
It does seem that the results are just frozen, too. There's nothing new is being declared right now.
Counters have gone to bed?
Yeah, no, it does seem that way, actually.
The swing states where Trump was holding a lead, Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, Georgia, they suspended their vote count or postponed counting mail-in ballots, and it happened almost simultaneously. This inevitably delayed the final result. Then just after midnight, at 12:49 a.m., Trump sent a tweet. And then around 2 a.m., he appeared at the White House to proclaim an impending victory and to announce that his campaign would take the election fight to the Supreme Court.
We want the law to be used in a proper manner. So we'll be going to the U.S. Supreme Court. We want all voting to stop. We don't want them to find any ballots at 4 o'clock in the morning and add them to the list.
He's suggesting there was fraud that took place, that the American people were defrauded by changes possibly made to the election system. This is going to go to the Supreme Court. We'll have to see whether these ballots are counted, the ones that are still pending, presumably. We'll have to see whether election fraud took place, as Trump seems to be alleging here.
At 4 a.m. on November 4th, exhausted spectators were in a deep slumber, and America was in the pitch black of night. But the sun came up with another surprise. Trump's lead in several key swing states had disappeared.
I've flipped on the news earlier this morning. We started looking like it's going more Biden.
And what was more unusual was that Wisconsin and Michigan had resumed counting around 4 a.m. and 6 a.m. And both states showed a sudden spike in votes.
Look at that!
100,000 votes.
When no one's counting! 100,000 Biden votes? Come on!
It wasn't long before Biden's large deficit behind Trump became a small but sustained lead, which was declared a Biden victory by most mainstream media on November 7th. Even though no state had certified its results and no electors had been appointed.
The election hasn't officially ended, but the Trump campaign says they're suing in a number of states, which could potentially change the election results we have now.
Second by second, I had watched the voting data come in on election night, and the count that came in on the morning of November 4th just didn't add up. What exactly happened before dawn on November 4th? Not a single news agency provided an explanation, and the opinions portrayed by the public on social media and the announcers on mainstream media were in huge opposition.
There is no evidence that
President refusing to concede the election, repeating his baseless claims that the election was a fraud.
How are they impacting people there in Georgia who have another runoff election to look forward to?
In violations of Michigan election law.
Meanwhile, at the White House, President Trump spent his holiday continuing to push baseless claims about voter fraud.
It's certainly not easy to separate fact from fiction when it comes to allegations of election fraud, but it is clear, especially with the ongoing legal process, that the mainstream media prematurely declared Biden the winner.
NBC News now projects that Joe Biden won the
presidential election.
Without investigating it themselves, they hastily denied any fraudulent activity in this election, which had a historic turnout.
Of course they denied fraud.
Where is the independence?
OJ said he was not guilty also.
And the professionalism that we expect from the news media. The New York Times sources its voting data from Edison Research. Edison receives real-time election data from each state office directly, including from voting systems. Analyzing this data, I calculated the percentage of votes obtained by Trump and Biden against the total votes counted. And I found that on November 4th, within 7 seconds, after 6:31 a.m., Michigan saw a sudden influx of 149,722 votes, of which 141,258 votes, or 94.3%, were for Biden. Only 4% were for Trump. This abnormal spike in votes directly resulted in Biden closing the gap in Michigan and then overtaking Trump. Checking the New York Times election database, I saw Wisconsin also displayed similar abnormalities. During the 5 minutes between 3:37 and 3:42 a.m. local time, 168,386 votes were tallied, of which 143,379, or 85%, were for Biden, and 25,163, or 14.9%, were for Trump. Before that 5 minutes, Trump had always been in the lead. This abnormality reversed the situation in Wisconsin and gave Biden the lead. In the currently contested Wisconsin results, Biden leads Trump by only 20,608 votes. Yet at 3:42 a.m. on November 4th, Biden received a peculiar influx of 143,379 votes. More swing states, such as Pennsylvania, Georgia, and Arizona, all had similar anomalies in their election vote count. Yet despite these abnormal statistics surfacing one after another, the mainstream media have continued to present only one-sided interpretations that clearly favor Biden. The gap between reports of mainstream media and the actual data really puzzles me. But what is even more puzzling is the difference between the number of votes received by Biden versus the Senate Democratic candidates. According to a Pew Research Center survey, a significant majority of Trump and Biden supporters indicated that they will vote for the Senate candidate of the same party. And the results from the traditionally blue Democratic states and the Republican states in this election certainly confirmed the survey results. In the non-swing states of Maine, Delaware, South Dakota, and Wyoming, Trump and Biden's votes are not equal to those of senator candidates from their respective parties. But the gap is small in comparison. However, in swing states, Biden's vote count far eclipsed that of the Senate Democratic candidates. For example, in Michigan, Biden received 69,093 more votes than the Democratic candidate Gary Peters. This is almost 10 times more than the 7,131 vote count difference between Trump and the Senate Republican candidate John James. The case in Georgia is even more exaggerated, where the vote count between Biden and the Senate Democratic candidate differed by 95,801 votes. That is 117 times the 818 vote count variance between Trump and the Republican candidate. What do these abnormal differences illustrate? They indicate that in swing states, a large number of voters only voted for Biden, but not the Democratic senator. This possibility does exist, but if such a phenomena only appears in swing states and on such a large scale, what does it mean? In 2020, the Cook Political Report and the New York Times listed 27 seats in the House of Representatives as having unpredictable results. At present, Republicans seem to have won all of those 27 seats, and Democrats have not been able to overturn any of the Republican House seats. In New Hampshire, the Republican Party simultaneously overturned the seats in the State House of Representatives and the Senate, and expanded its majority position in the state assembly nationwide.
I want the votes to be counted. Every vote counts, and every vote should be counted. Absolutely.
I'm going to keep looking into some of what's been happening. We're going to keep interviewing people about the allegations of election fraud, seeing what we can find. With so many abnormalities, I had to find more answers. Is it possible these are the result of mail-in ballots? Due to the CCP virus this year, mail-in ballots were used widely throughout the United States, and this is the biggest difference between 2020 and past elections. Just how much did mail-in ballots affect the integrity of the 2020 elections? I was determined to find out. Since November 4th, witnesses and insiders have been coming forward with accusations and testimony of fraudulent activity in swing states. One whistleblower in particular caught my attention with his roller coaster experience. Pennsylvania U.S. postal worker Richard Hopkins revealed this story to the nonprofit organization Project Veritas,
exposing that Erie County Postmaster Robert Weisenbach told postal workers to separate mail-in ballots that arrived after November 3rd from other mail and to postmark them with an earlier date so they would be counted.
They should have backdated the November 4th ballot to November 3rd, correct?
Yes.
After speaking out, Hopkins was threatened by his superior, interrogated by federal agent Russell Strasser for 4 hours, and forced to sign an affidavit recanting his allegations. Hopkins was denied access to a lawyer and a copy of his signed affidavit. His Twitter account was also shut down. On November 10th, the Washington Post published a false report claiming that Hopkins fabricated the charges, and the New York Times followed with a similar story. However, the Washington Times published a completely opposite report, stating that Hopkins denied recanting his allegations.
I'm here to say that I did not recant my statements. And I would like that the Washington Post recant their wonderful little article that they decided to throw out there.
If Richard Hopkins' claims were false, why was he threatened by his superior? Why did completely opposite stories appear about him in the media? Did all 6 states in dispute experience the same anomalies in this election? The media did not just deny Richard's
What they did to that guy is fucked.
The New York Times reported that they interviewed representatives from every state, but not a single person mentioned that the anomalies could be election fraud. I had to question this. The American people really need the facts. A video was forwarded to me, featuring another Pennsylvania resident with explosive fraud allegations.
I can't believe what I'm seeing right before my eyes. This has nothing to do with Joe Biden or Donald Trump. This has to do with our democracy, and I will tell you, there is corruption at the highest level in the city of Philadelphia.
This witness was an accredited election observer and a registered Democrat. I had to find out more, so I began investigating in Pennsylvania, which holds 20 electoral votes, the highest of all remaining swing states.
I grew up in Philadelphia. I was in banking with JP Morgan for 12 years. I've been a Major League Baseball agent since 2006. And recently I was asked by the Republican Party to be a poll watcher at the Philadelphia Convention Center. The first row of, I call them ballot counters, the people processing and counting the ballots, the first row was about 25, 30 feet. After that, the machines, the rows, they kept getting further and further, and this hall went back 150 feet, 200 feet. But we did not have access. We couldn't see the people closest to us, about 25 feet. You couldn't see what was going on, unless you're Superman with X-ray vision, let alone see what's going on in the back. It was coordinated where they had supervisors to answer to. And in the back, there were exit doors. I have no idea who was there, but in the right-hand side, what caught my attention, okay, were black trash, which looked like piles of black trash bags. So I was standing there and I just couldn't believe what I was seeing. There was no transparency. There was no one there to answer questions. There were people taking pictures and video, and when they took the pictures and video, they were asked to delete them, or if the security guard saw you. I wasn't the only one that took a video. However, if you look at that hall and the setup of the hall, obviously it looks like they're hiding something, and they don't want us to see something. So now, there was a list at the convention hall of people that were not allowed in, and I was one of them. I'm not going to do conspiracies, but the reality is, if somebody wanted to bring in ballots in that back door in the Philadelphia Convention Center, orchestrate it, they could have done it easily.
Besides Pennsylvania,
and they obviously
the state
did.
having the most rumors of election fraud was Michigan, with 16 electoral votes on the line. Wayne County, especially Detroit, is the region with the most whistleblowers so far.
I got sent 7 absentee ballots with never applying for one. One of them was sent to me in my maiden name, and I went to vote in person on November 3rd. And after giving them my ID card, I ended up having to fill out an affidavit because I was questioned if I had voted already, and I haven't. Come to find out that somebody did vote in my name. I don't care who you voted for, voter fraud's real, and this election is rigged.
They were just rescanning, counting ballots.
My favorite.
9 to 10 times these workers were rescanning.
Oh, I love her.
batches of ballots numerous times. I mean, sometimes I saw between 8 and 10 times for them to be rescanned. That's just one person. You know, that happened in a 24-hour shift thousands of times. The whole time I was there in a 24-hour shift, there was not a single time that I saw one ballot for Trump. Not a single time.
The TCF Center became the focal point in Detroit, Michigan, as more and more witnesses emerged.
This is where I witnessed they were counting ballots that were not registered. They weren't in the poll log, the QVF, and they couldn't verify them. The ballots that came in could not be matched with the
insanity, bro. It's craziness.
File, and the ballots could not be matched with the paper file, yet they still counted those ballots. Boom. That's illegal. That's wrong. You can't do that. Also, my affidavit,
unconstitutional.
I wanted to challenge all these other ballots, and I was prohibited from doing so.
So if you question anything, they would intentionally circle you and intimidate you.
At one point, I was trying to challenge one of the names on there, and the woman actually turned around and physically pushed me away.
The atmosphere in the room was really hostile. There were multiple times where when I was at my table, I got just hollered at for like stepping closer to try to
MAGA gang
boxes and almost like suitcases back there too. A big pile of them with saran wrap all over them. We inquired about those, and the young guy who was standing there, he goes, "If you don't walk away from these suitcases or from this back door, I will arrest you."
I was not feeling comfortable. No idea what's going to happen. The little baby, I'm pregnant, want to keep myself safe. And so it was around this time that I started thinking about I need to leave.
I estimate right there fraudulent votes that they counted, I saw with my own eyes, 8,000 to 16,000 fraudulent votes.
I do believe that fraud was very evident at the TCF Center in Detroit.
There were so many inconsistencies, so much.
Trump still won, baby. He won the election. We're going to audit the vote and go into martial law. Watch this episode from the beginning. It's great.
We have stuck our necks out.
Once this is done.
Have been intimidated, threatened.
Thousands of people from across the Commonwealth have reached out to us, tens of thousands.
People are not feeling good nor confident about the process and the results because of that process.
These are not normal activities.
This is no game, and the very republic very much is at stake. Anyone who loves this country has to put aside their petty partisan politics and allow the light to shine where it is.
I'm here for one thing only, and that is to speak the truth.
The ballot was issued, the date.
A few days after the election, data analyst Matt Brainerd set up a team to look for data anomalies across 6 disputed states of Pennsylvania, Georgia, Michigan, Wisconsin, Arizona, and Nevada. His team initially determined that at least 1.25 million votes had data irregularities. They then investigated the abnormalities by phone calls and data cross-referencing.
Well, the law in Georgia is when you register to vote, you have to mark down what your actual residence is. So you can have a separate mailing address, which is fine, that they will record, but you have to put down what your actual residence is. But what we had found was a large number of people, substantial, especially given how tight the margin is, well over 1,000, who voted in this election, listed themselves at addresses that are in fact postal facilities. Facilities the Postal Service either will lease or own. So that could include a post office, the UPS store, FedEx store, anything like that. And not only did they list themselves there, but they disguised a P.O. box as an apartment. So rather than saying P.O. Box 123, the address is listed as apartment 123. And that's a major red flag. And what's also remarkable about these individuals is that almost all of them voted early absentee. Very few voted in person. So that really raises a red flag because they're illegally registered, and not just incidentally, but
do you understand
intentionally meant to deceive. We found over 1,000 of them in Georgia. In fact, over 1,400 so far in Pennsylvania as well, with the very same tactic. There was a number of people in all 6 states where we were doing our tests who the state marked as having requested an absentee ballot, but they didn't return it. So we reached out to these people and asked 2 questions. The first question we asked is, did you actually request that ballot? And in many cases they said no, which is a big red flag, because somebody had to request that ballot, and by law it had to be them or somebody that they designated legally to do so.
We show that in the state of Pennsylvania is marked as having received an absentee ballot request from you, but did not receive your absentee ballot. Did you request an absentee ballot?
No.
You can see very clearly, we'll get a street view here. U.S. Postal Service. Open and shut. Fraud.
And they have an apartment number.
Yeah, so that's actually P.O. Box 244, but as you can plainly see, I'd be happy to share. We ran 6 different analyses, in fact 7 now in Pennsylvania, and all of them showed problems. We ran an analysis where we called people who had moved, yet they were told that they had a ballot cast in their name. We called them and asked, did you vote? Did you actually cast that ballot? And we found people that said no, they didn't. We dialed into precincts that had exceptionally high turnout and spoke to people who had voted in this election but didn't have a record of voting much at all, if ever at all, before, and found people in that universe that said, no, I did not cast a ballot. Somebody else cast that ballot in my name.
What's your process in terms of making sure the data stands?
So you have to start with the authoritative data, which is what the state provides. And leading up to the election, the state releases a list every day of people who voted earlier absentee or requested an absentee ballot or sent in an absentee ballot request or requested a request for an absentee ballot. So usually that's all documented by the state. So we took those as basically at the close after the election to have the entire records of everybody who requested absentee ballots or voted early. We appended it with phone numbers. We also bounced it up against the National Change of Address database, which is maintained by the Postal Service. It's a fairly reliable match because you're not just matching on name, but also on full name and address. And we also matched it up against the Social Security Death Index and the Master Death File to see if anybody matches up against it, because that's one of the often accused methods of alleged voter fraud.
Brainerd's team discovered that Georgia had 138,221 people who had already left Georgia but still voted through mail-in ballots. This was concerning because Biden's lead in Georgia was currently sitting at only 12,670 votes ahead of Trump. In Wisconsin, he found 26,673 people who left the state but still voted in Wisconsin via mail-in ballots, and Biden was leading by only 20,608 votes. And in Arizona, he found 19,997 people who had moved out of the state but had still voted with mail-in ballots. And Biden's lead in Arizona is only 10,457. Brainerd believes the data his team uncovered is enough to flip the election results in all 3 states, which have a total of 37 electoral votes.
I'm signing witness reports as an expert, and if needed, I'm going to be testifying in court if it gets to that point. So this isn't speculative. This is just what the data shows.
Let us know what you want to see.
That's it. This is not
a speculation.
speculation.
Video from the State Farm Arena.
Clock says it's quarter till 1776. Yes, Joe, I agree.
I'm a lawyer, but
that's a great way to say it.
As a lawyer in this case, I'm
this
just
is my
helping out the legal
favorite
team here, and going to explain to you the evidence that we have from the State Farm Arena here in Fulton County, which goes to what Ray was talking about in terms of fraud or misrepresentation.
It showed that on the night of November 3rd, the voting center announced it was stopping ballot counting and asked all Republican poll watchers and journalists to leave, but 4 people remained.
Okay, there they walk. They're walking off.
After everyone else had left, those 4 people pulled out ballot containers that had been hidden from sight during the entire day. And without any poll watchers or public observers, they processed and counted ballots until 1 a.m.
The reason we know this is because when our Republican observers were forced to leave, they went to the Central Tabulation Center, and they got word from a news crew that in fact counting had continued. They have information that not everybody left according to plan, and some people stayed behind.
Based on the length of time of this operation, the number of ballots processed illegally would have exceeded Biden's reported lead in the state. This illegal act of fraud must have been planned and organized in advance. Who instigated and directed this illegal activity during the 2020 election?
You may recall the old quote attributed to Stalin that says, "I don't care who votes, I care about who counts the votes."
That's what matters.
Election challenger and former Michigan State Republican Senator Patrick Colbeck was monitoring the vote counting process at Detroit's TPS Center.
First of all, I am a former Michigan State Senator. I served on the Michigan Senate Elections and Government Reform Committee. I took those duties very seriously to the point of diagramming out all of our election processes, so I had a pretty good understanding of how elections are supposed to work from a book perspective.
My role was that of a poll challenger, and I served in the Detroit AV Counting Board as a poll challenger certified by an organization that I helped form called the Election Integrity Fund. There are Wi-Fi routers all over the place, including one called AV_Connect. So that kind of tells me that absentee voter _connect. So there's suspicion there. When you go over to the tabulators, I went to all the different tabulator workstations, went underneath the tables.
Wow, AV Connect. That's the first time I've seen that.
All the tabulator computers were connected via Ethernet cables to a network router, and that router in turn was connected to another router, was connected to the adjudicators. Those were connected to another router / firewall probably. It was a little bit different spec on it than the normal one, which was connected to the internet, which was connected to the local data center. And so anybody who understands IT understands that if one computer is connected on a network to the internet, all the computers on that network are connected to the internet.
A voting machine connected to the internet is especially vulnerable to hackers. According to the 2020 election outline published by the Michigan Bureau of Elections, voting machines cannot be connected to the internet during ballot tabulation. Based on Michigan election regulations, vote count data must be transferred through USB drives, and computers must be placed in airplane mode to be disconnected from the internet.
Why were the election officials that were local so adamant that none of this equipment was connected to the internet? I can actually show the Michigan contract with Dominion Voting Systems that specified specifically that this equipment was meant to be connected to the internet. The fact that they're denying it begs the question, why are they denying this? Why is it important for them to deny it? So there's some serious concerns right up at the top.
Wayne County is the most populous county in Michigan, with 1.41 million registered voters in 2020, which is 17.35% of the state total. The county government is located in Detroit. The Michigan ballot result has Biden leading over Trump by 146,007 votes. And Biden's advantage is effectively due to Wayne County. Without Wayne County, Trump would lead by 186,630 votes.
If you have the ability to connect your election gear to the internet, you've already violated the Federal Election Commission's rulings.
You talked about internet connectivity and why there's be problems. Why would there be problems?
They have found in our election that there are millions of people or names of people that have voted for one candidate, for Joe Biden, above and beyond the total number of registered voters in those districts. In other words, all across the nation, we're finding more and more votes. The only way you could do that quickly is either mail-in ballots or a combination of mail-in ballots and voter fraud using the software to do it for you. If you want to quickly change an election, it's easy to change the software and do that if it can be connected to the internet. There's all these videos of hacking election gear. Right, here's another one. Look at that, that's how easy this is.
When it's off, removing the card reader, removing this, you don't need any tools to do this.
G, thank you for joining us, my friend.
Unplugging this, again, you don't need any tools to do this. Turning it on, all you have to do is pick this lock here with a ballpoint pen. Open this up, press the red button.
So she's rebooting, and when she reboots, guess what? Get a few error messages. Now she has administrative permission to give you 200 votes to my one.
Full admin access, under 2 minutes.
Years ago, you had to be a super hacker. And if you look at some of the videos from the HBO documentary on hacking election gear to CBS, NBC, CNN, Fox, and others, for the past 5 or 6 years, they've shown all these vulnerabilities in all this gear. So it's super easy. It doesn't require super intelligence.
The number of methods of election fraud alleged in the 2020 election kept growing. as more and more evidence kept coming in from sworn affidavits by eyewitnesses and careful data analysis, I began to realize that our investigations had only just scratched the surface.
What I saw was not a secure and transparent election.
What I saw as a forensics expert was an election process that was forensically destructive.
No track, no remedy, no records.
The vote as it presently exists is false.
Dominion. Every witness I interviewed, including many whistleblowers, pointed at a connection between Dominion voting machines and election fraud allegations. Is that why Dominion became a public focal point after election night? According to Dominion's official website, the Dominion voting system is currently used in 28 U.S. states and the territory of Puerto Rico. More than 40% of U.S. voters vote through the Dominion voting system in general elections. 65 of the 83 counties in Michigan use the Dominion voting system. 159 counties in Georgia also use it. And in
Georgia's
Arizona,
got the most.
Dominion serves 2.2 million voters in Maricopa County. When I typed in Dominion voting system and safe in a Google search, the first result I got was a USA Today story, fact check, Dominion voting machines didn't delete votes from Trump, switch them to Biden, followed by similar headings from other media. When I typed in Dominion voting system and fraud, the first thing I saw was AFP's fact check, video of Dominion voting employee in Georgia does not show election fraud. Next, a Fox News report on Dominion stated, DHS calls election the most secure in America history. Mainstream media seem to have already prepared voters with a set of talking points to immediately counter any possible fraud allegations. But if you search deeper, you'll see that prior to this presidential election, mainstream media presented a completely opposite perspective on the security of Dominion voting systems. They were previously skeptical of Dominion security. In April 2018, the New York Times showed viewers how easy it is to hack an election via a video of University of Michigan's computer science professor J. Alex Halderman demonstrating to students the hacking process of a Dominion voting machine. So it was intriguing to me to see that same J. Alex Halderman appear on Fox News this year and emphasize that the 2020 election was the most secure election in American history.
Professor, did Dominion voting machines change any votes?
Well, no. There is absolutely no evidence, none.
Similarly, CNN published a video in November 2016 titled, How Hackers Could Swing the Election, warning of the high risk of hacking attacks on electronic voting systems. Another CNN video published in August 2017 said, we watched hackers break into voting machines, showed participants at the World Hacking Conference DEF CON successfully hack into all voting machines available. This was a hacking experiment organized by Jake Braun, a former security advisor at the Department of Homeland Security during the Obama administration. The purpose was to highlight vulnerabilities in voting machines and warn that they could be the biggest threat to democracy in American history. When asked if he thought it was possible for the 2020 election to be infiltrated, Braun answered,
You believe that right now we are in a position where the 2020 election will be hacked?
Oh, without question.
NBC was also on board with their August 2019 report, How Hackers Can Target Voting Machines. An authority on voting system security, Dr. Andrew Appel, a professor of computer science at Princeton University, told Fox News in 2016 how simple it was to attack and switch votes in a Dominion voting machine. In September 2016, he provided a written testimony with recommendations on election voting security to a House Subcommittee on Information Technology hearing on cybersecurity. He said, quote, I strongly recommend that, at a minimum, the Congress seek to ensure the elimination of touchscreen voting machines immediately after this November election, and that it require that all elections be subject to sensible auditing after every election to ensure that systems are functioning properly and to prove to the American people that their votes are counted as cast. He continued, Paper ballots are even better protection against fraud with systematic auditing to make sure the computers aren't cheating. You don't have to recount every ballot box, just spot check a statistical sample. There are 12 states that do this by law. It's a good idea, and all states should do it. In September 2017, Dr. Appel also testified at the U.S. House Oversight and Government Reform Committee's hearing on election cybersecurity. In 2020, in a keynote speech delivered at Princeton, Dr. Appel repeated his views.
Even a computer scientist can't see inside the computer to really know what software programming is running in that computer today. All computerized voting machines can be hacked.
I felt anxious seeing the mainstream media and a top expert flip-flop on their opinion and testimony. Had these security concerns about Dominion really changed?
I would submit that many of the features of Dominion that are being characterized as glitches are actually designed features of Dominion to help people manipulate the results of the election. We had a outage at all the tabulator computer. I think it was a tabulator or adjudicator computers. They were down for 45 minutes due to network issues. We also had issues with some of the poll books that we understand there was an error message that popped up that there was a notable gasp when it happened, and it said, warning, this computer is being hacked. The errors that popped up
That's
on
insane.
Computers with the tabulators and adjudicators was something called backup overflow. That's not a standard Windows error message. Where you do see that error message is on when you're trying to back up to a SQL database. Now, either each one of these tabulators had their own SQL database built into that workstation, or they were trying to connect to some outside database that was not local at that workstation. So you couple that with the fact that some strange things similar to that were happening up in Antrim County, where we already have evidence that 6,000 votes were flipped from Biden to Trump. Now you start putting together a picture where this whole internet connectivity becomes pretty important.
There's nothing secure about the Dominion voting gear or any other, or even Diebold and others. Nothing secure. And patches are just pieces of software added to already complex, insecure systems.
From a cybersecurity standpoint, why would patches be a vulnerability?
We haven't seen the patch that was installed in 30 states on the Dominion gear. So when someone writes a patch can open a back door, change an algorithm for better or worse, accidentally have a bug in it that allows what we call buffer overflow or other software exploits. Most of the time, patches actually close one hole and open one or more new holes.
The public who purchased this equipment is not allowed to look in at the code or know how to operate. It creates a space for people to make accusations and have theories about how votes were stolen or switched through some kind of hacking or some other nefarious electronic means. That space only exists. You can only make those accusations, and people can only believe them because all of those are closed source software packages and closed source machinery. If it was open source, it would be much more difficult to make that kind of accusation.
Let's say that we have 1,000 people in a bank and they all have, let's say, $100 each in the bank. Now, they're earning interest. So if you hack into that bank and you notice that someone's earning interest, the interest is not 1 full penny or 5 cents. It can be a half a penny that day. So anything under a penny might not be recognized. So you slice the half a penny out of that person's account and move it to yours. You slice 3/4 of a penny out of this person's account and move it to yours. Their bank account numbers always look normal because we don't publicly publish when you log into your bank account that you have a half a penny of interest. We wait till it rounds up to a full penny. So that's called the salami method.
So you're not talking about switching full votes, you're talking about switching fractions of votes?
We have a problem with software and hardware for voting, not paper ballots, because they allow percentages of votes. One person can have 1 vote, or they can have 0.5 vote, 0.2 vote, 0.1 vote. So I can take 0.9 away from you, for myself, and give you 0.1, just from 1 vote. The salami method has probably been used in our election by slicing votes away from one candidate, the current president, Donald Trump, slicing his votes away and then moving them, shifting them to Joe Biden. And that's called the salami method. And if you do it right, you can actually slice so many times in so many counties that it shifts a dramatic amount of votes to a different candidate.
This reminded me of an unusual scene in CNN's live election night broadcast, which I saw captured on a netizen's cell phone. As the host was interpreting the results in several key states, a live ticker on the bottom of the screen showed the vote count in various states. It first showed that Trump had 1,690,589 votes in Pennsylvania versus Biden's 1,252,537. But after just half a minute, the ticker showed Trump's count suddenly drop, while Biden's suddenly increased. Normally, the vote count for each candidate only increases as the ballot counting proceeds, but during those 30 seconds, Trump's count dropped by almost 20,000 votes, while Biden's jumped up by almost 20,000 votes. Notice how the drop in Trump's count and the increase in Biden's count is suspiciously the exact same number of votes. 19,958.
Can't deny that.
I'd like to see the logs. I'd like to see the algorithm. I'd like that to be analyzed by someone like myself who can read and write computer code.
I had training as a corporate lawyer. And when you're a corporate attorney on Wall Street or in Los Angeles or anywhere else, when you research a company to take it public or to, as an investment banker, to finance it, you do your background check. You do your true due diligence. You kick the tires. Diebold, if you look at their history, was fraught with all kinds of problems. They've had issues across the land. And eventually their software, their hardware, their IP all wound up in the hands of, guess who? Dominion.
It's not just Dominion, by the way. It's voting equipment that's running software that had internet connectivity, whether or not it was patched, whether or not someone had admin permission to go in and change the way it operates easily by following downloadable instructions. We blame those who were allowed to have access to this gear, how the gear was set up, why this gear was set up.
Danny, I'm jealous. I live in a blue state. That should be red, but this shit happens.
Manipulated equipment.
And who had access to that equipment? And what changes could they have made right before the election?
This is real journalism.
Before the
I just want to make a point here to say that this is real journalism. I thank everyone for who's watching. Please go ahead and share the stream. What these guys are doing, this is actually telling a story. This is really reporting on stuff and doing reporting and actually what news and reporting looks like. I highly recommend the Epic Times, and I recommend NTD. You're going to see that on the screen here whenever they show news clips. They come from a station, NTD, which you can get on YouTube and I believe some cable networks, as a genuine source of real news. The Epic Times is someone that I will say I support.
2020 election, the parent company of Dominion Voting Systems
very anti-communist.
$400 million in funding. This was shocking news, and I suspected there must be some significant clue to find out what was hidden behind this. First, I discovered that the three related parties to this transaction all exhibited strange behavior before and after the election. Staple Street Capital, a middle-market private equity firm, was founded on June 9, 2009 and purchased Dominion on July 16, 2018 for about $265 million. Shortly after the election on November 3rd, the company website underwent a full transformation. All information about the company's founders and investment portfolios were deleted. One can no longer find any relationship with Dominion from the website. Dominion Voting Systems. On the evening of November 19, 2020, the head of Dominion canceled at the last minute a planned appearance at the Pennsylvania House of Representatives hearing.
Instead of running towards the light of honesty and integrity, Dominion Voting Systems retreated to the darkness. Why are they hiding from us?
The next day, Dominion's product strategy and security director, Eric Coomer, went missing. His bio was deleted from the Dominion company website. The company's Canadian headquarters in Toronto suddenly closed, and the U.S. headquarters in Denver, Colorado also closed without notice. Coincidentally, when Dominion became a global focus after the election, over 100 employees, a third of the total workforce, erased their LinkedIn records, including Dominion's employees in Serbia. UBS Securities LLC, According to SEC filings, UBS Securities LLC arranged $400 million in investment to Staple Street Capital on October 8, 2020, less than a month before the election. This was the second time UBS Securities LLC had transacted with Staple Street. The first time was on December 19, 2014 in the amount of $200 million. We also discovered that there are two firms called UBS Securities in the world. One is registered in New York with an LLC suffix. The other is registered in Beijing with a co-Ltd suffix. UBS Beijing also recently undertook some very peculiar actions. On the morning of December 1st in the US, lawyer Lin Wood alleged on Twitter that China purchased Dominion Voting on October 8th for $400 million. On the previous day in China, UBS Beijing's board of directors saw 11 out of 14 members replaced. Was the large-scale replacement of board members at UBS Beijing a coincidence, or was there some kind of relationship? Making a sizable investment into the parent company of Dominion, which had a 40% market share in the U.S. electronic voting equipment space right before the election, suddenly propelled UBS-NY into the focal point on social media. I took a deep dive into the corporate structure of UBS Securities LLC. The company's profile on Bloomberg shows that 3 out of the 4 board members are Chinese. Their names are Luo Cheng, Ye Xiang, and Mu Lina. Other than Luo Qiang, who has French nationality, the other 2 are Chinese nationals with very close ties to UBS Beijing. Based on public information, Luo Cheng is a banker who held senior executive positions at Citibank and Morgan Stanley. Between 2004 and 2012, he was the chief banking specialist at the International Finance Corporation, a member of the World Bank Group. During that time, Luo also served on the board of UBS Beijing. Luo Qiang held board positions at both UBS-NY and UBS Beijing. Ye Xiang has a very diverse background. Other than being a board member of UBS-NY, he is also the managing director at Vision Gain Capital in Hong Kong, as well as a columnist for Caixin, a media company with deep ties to the CCP. At the same time, Ye is an independent board member of at least 6 other companies in China and a supervisor of more than 8 Chinese companies. Before the sudden change in board members at UBS Beijing, Ye had been chairman of the board at UBS Beijing for over 10 years. In Hong Kong, Ye had been the senior consultant for chairman and CEO of Hong Kong Securities and Futures Commission, an executive director of Bank of China International, a senior analyst at the Hong Kong Monetary Authority, and secretary of foreign financial institutions at the People's Bank of China. Mu Lina is a 40-something finance undergraduate. Along with being on the board of UBS-NY, she is also the director of wealth management funds and head of fund operations at UBS Beijing. Mu's background is shrouded in secrecy. Her photo cannot be found on the internet. It should be noted that Mu is an independent board member of 2 companies, Chongqing Three Gorges Water Conservancy and Electric Power Co. Ltd. and SureCam Corporation, until September 7, 2020. SureCam Corporation's business includes Internet of Things, cloud computing, and big data. Its CEO, Pan Fan, was an employee at Huawei for 14 years. Similarly, SureCam's business focused on Internet and surveillance, and Internet and law enforcement. It participated in the construction of the 3-dimensional social security system, as well as the Skynet project, a video surveillance system, electronic fence, and other CCP digital totalitarian efforts. It can be said that SureCam is a miniature Huawei and an enabler of the CCP's digital totalitarian state. The 3 UBS-NY board members, Luo Qiang, Ye Xiang, and Mu Lina, all held board or executive positions at UBS-NY and UBS Beijing, either at different points in time or concurrently. There is a clear link between the 2 UBS Securities companies. UBS Securities Co. Ltd., or UBS Beijing, was established under personal supervision by the current Vice President of China, Wang Qishan. According to the company's Chinese website, UBS Beijing was registered toward the end of 2006 as the first foreign-invested, exclusively managed, fully licensed securities firm in China. Based on the name, people often associate UBS Securities with the Swiss bank UBS. However, the company was actually a rebranding of the failed state-owned company Beijing Securities. Current UBS Beijing chairman, Chiang Yu-jun, presented during a 2017 interview that UBS Group received the full license of Beijing Securities with a 24.99% stake in UBS Beijing. Other stakeholders, including Beijing Guoxiang Asset Management with 33%, Guangdong Provincial Communications Group with 14.01%, China Guodian Capital Holding with 14%, and COFCO Group with 14%. Note that Beijing Guoxiang only had one shareholder, China Construction Bank. Under the care of Wang Qishan, UBS Group became the first foreign company to own a full securities operations license in China. UBS Beijing's business spanned securities underwriting, wealth management, private business, among others. UBS Beijing once executed IPOs for Bank of China, Industrial and Commercial Bank of China, China Construction Bank, China Merchants Bank, China Minsheng Bank, and other banks. It can be said that UBS Beijing has a monopoly in China. When the CCP introduced new policies in 2018 to allow controlling stakes by foreign companies, UBS increased its stake in UBS Beijing to 51%. Yet the company continued to be under CCP control as the board and executives were all Chinese nationals even to this day. How close are the ties between UBS Beijing and the CCP? The backgrounds of two UBS Beijing executives could clarify this issue. Cheng Yi-sun,
Is this on
General
Netflix?
Manager
And so, what's the
Board
title?
Director of
These
UBS
guys are the real
Beijing.
deal. Kevin, I know
Cheng
you sent me
Yi-sun
stuff.
was an expert targeted in the CCP's 1,000 Talents Plan, or TTP.
So hold on, real quick. It is pissing me off too. Reading that from Danny. Live in New Jersey. Wish they would investigate. Bet it would flip. From what I understand, New Jersey was all mandatory mail-in voting, universal. Everybody did mail-in. I don't know if you couldn't go to the polls, but that's what I was told. That I heard that on Tim Pool. Amen, brother. These guys are real. Shared with the family in Michigan. Real Trump lovers. I love it. Danny knows. And his family. I hope you guys are watching. Thank you. Is this on Netflix? If so, what's the title? It's on YouTube, and it's called Who's Stealing America?
FX168.com describes Sheng
I'll
and
drop
his
the
wife,
link.
Xu Xiaohong, as special targets of the TTP. Cheng's uncle, Cheng Kai-jia, was the founder and architect of CCP nuclear experimentation and the recipient of the 2 bombs, 1 satellite medal. Cheng Yi-sun studied nuclear science at university and only changed professions after studying abroad. Xu Zhe, board director of UBS Beijing, manager and chairman of CapInfo Co. Ltd. CapInfo is viewed as the industry leader among Beijing's state-owned enterprises in the realm of e-government. Its partners include Huawei, ZTE, Unit 61019, and 61195, Science and Technology Exchange Center of the Chinese People's Liberation Army, the Chinese military, the Institute of Computer Technology at the Chinese Academy of Sciences, and others in the political legal system. CapInfo has multiple layers of partnerships with the military, intelligence, and political legal systems. It is a classic example of a military-civilian fusion enterprise. Add to that Mu Lina, with her background in Huawei Junior Surecam Corporation. One can only say that UBS Beijing is a highly integrated company of CCP military, intelligence, political legal, digital totalitarian, and financial oligarch forces. For a financial company like UBS Group, which has such close ties to the CCP and possibly part of the CCP's unrestricted warfare system, one can't help but wonder if this significant arrangement of investment by one of its subsidiaries was a typical transaction purely for profit, or if there were other motives involved.
Want to start
tonight with evidence, with a remarkable video.
On the evening, December 7th, 2020, the Tucker Carlson Tonight Show broadcasted video clips of a public lecture given by a CCP academic at the end of November in Shanghai. They revealed the explosive inside story of how the CCP was able to infiltrate and compromise America over the last few decades via Wall Street and old friends.
前边特朗普政府跟我们打贸易战，那么我们为什么搞不定特朗普政府？啊，为什么以前1992年到2016年之间，中美之间各种问题都能搞得定？是不是？大家发现没有？所有的危机，不管是银河号事件，还是炸大使馆，还是撞了飞机，所有事情全部是床头吵架床尾和，2个月之内搞定。什么原因？啊，这儿我抛出一个可能又要是暴论了，就是因为咱们上边有人，啊，就是我们在美国的权势核心圈啊，我们有我们的老朋友。2015年啊，这个上次习总书记访问美国之前呢，我们知道各个系统都要在美国帮他暖场，是不是？那么咱们的党的某个系统，他在美国帮他暖场的方式呢，就是
Are you seeing this？
舆论啊，舆论的话呢，就是这个习近平谈治国理政那本书的新书英文版第一版新书发布会放在美国，在他去之前先搞。
I think during this part he forgot that we still need
帮他造势。天下没有美元搞不定的事情，是吧？如果一打美元搞不定，是吧？那我就晾他。这个当然这是我的工作方式。好。那么其实呢，就是说啊，说的白了点儿啊，其实呢，就过去这个30年啊，过去40年，我们在美国的它的这个利用它权势核心圈，是不是？我前面讲过，华尔街在1970年代开始对美国它的内政外交有非常强的影响力啊，所以我们有路径依赖，是吧？但问题是08年之后，华尔街的地位下降了，更重要的是16年之后，华尔街搞不定特朗普，为什么？很尴尬。特朗普以前对华尔街有过一次软性违约，所以双方有矛盾啊。中美贸易战过程中，他们也试图帮忙啊。据我所知，美方的朋友跟我讲，这个试图帮忙，但是啊力有不逮啊。但现在呢，现在我们看到拜登上台了，传统的精英、政治精英啊，这个建制派，他们跟华尔街的关系是非常密切的。所以大家看到吧？拜登的儿子被特朗普说你在全球有什么基金公司，发现没有？谁帮他建的基金公司啊？明白吗？这边都有买卖啊。那么，所以这个时候我们以恰当的方式进行一定的这样一个表达一个善意啊。我个人理解，当然这个受限于我的专业基础，是吧？我们是从国际政治经济学的角度去理解这个事儿。那么我认为有它的战术和政治的价值在里边。
The speaker is Dr. D. Dong Sheng, Vice Director and Secretary of the Center for...
I hope that everybody watching this read that and understand that China is admitting this. Like, only the United States media is lying to its people. They're lying to their people, too, by acting like they're good. But they're telling two different stories about two different things. But China is admitting everything that our country is saying is not our country. Our media is acting like it's not happening. Biden is corrupted by China. Biden is fucking... He is China. Biden is China. But let's go back.
Foreign Strategic Studies of China and Vice Dean of the School of International Relations, Renmin University of China, and a member of Xi Jinping's Brain Trust. Even though D is part of Xi's brain trust, he seems more like a CCP whistleblower here. Throughout his speech, he conveyed a full picture of the CCP's unrestricted warfare against the U.S. over the past 30 years. Many Americans only began to grasp the meaning of the CCP's unrestricted warfare concept due to this year's pandemic. The attack on Pearl Harbor was an overt strike by the Japanese, but to the CCP, a war for global rule can take many forms, with no restrictions, as long as the objective is ultimate victory. The CCP had already proposed back in the 1990s the use of unrestricted warfare to defeat America. The intentional worldwide spread of the virus from Wuhan was the CCP's biological warfare. Fentanyl, which kills 30,000 Americans each year, is the CCP's drug warfare. This is also unrestricted warfare that aims to manipulate the election and enable a CCP proxy to be elected. They are not only organizing a large-scale systematic fraud through Dominion voting systems, Smartmatic voting software, and Skype, but also scientific warfare, digital warfare, public opinion warfare, and a multitude of other methods which are all part of unrestricted warfare.
What does China want? Well, ultimately, the Chinese Communist Party wants to be the global hegemon. It wants to be the center of political, strategic, and economic decision-making. It wants a world that refuses to defend itself from the Chinese Communist Party so that the Chinese Communist Party will never be challenged in China, that it will maintain its dictatorship of power forever. Cyber warfare assists all of these goals. And the manipulation of elections, if possible, is certainly an option that the Chinese Communist Party would want to exercise as it proceeds to make the world safe for its dictatorship.
The challenge that we face is that the Chinese Communist Party sees political warfare as its primary motivation or primary axis of war. It's not about weapons, it's about using influence and financial incentives to encourage the kind of behavior they want, whether that be a corporate leader, whether it be a financial leader, whether that be a political leader. So we're today in their element.
Many phenomena and conflicts in society are actually part of the CCP's unrestricted warfare. Why is there increasing division between Americans based on political alignment?
Well, like I said earlier, it's China.
Attacks, vandalism, looting, and other violent attacks been appearing across the nation. Why does it seem like the media and social media all have an invisible propaganda department in the background controlling freedom of press and freedom of speech? Why are anti-CCP opinions and content exposing election fraud blocked or deleted by Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and others? Why are the mainstream media declaring Biden the victor of the 2020 election and totally ignoring the provisions set forth in the Constitution of the United States? These are all strategies in the CCP's unrestricted warfare playbook. Penetrate fully into the enemy's cells, use a 1,000 talents plan to steal technology, use the media, associations, and social media to create social conflicts, get someone who will bow to Beijing's will elected, and advance forward until total control over the nation is achieved. It's worth noting that the CCP...
They're saying this. China says this openly, that they want to do this. Like, it's not my opinion. And that's why, again, this started off as crossing the Rubicon. All this is doing is reinforcing everything that I already know for a fact is going to happen. Trump is aware of this. He is 100% aware of what's going on with these people, and he is going to take action. Joe Biden will not be the president of the United States. He is compromised by China.
His infiltration of American society could not have occurred without the support of the elites of the Western world and special interest groups. These are the so-called old friends of the CCP. Who are these old friends? Let's flip back to January 2008 when Obama was sworn into the White House.
I, Barack Hussein Obama, do solemnly swear.
Dana Simpson is an expert in election integrity and technology and a former employee of the Tides Foundation in Canada, funded by George Soros. According to her years of investigations into Dominion, she discovered that Dominion was able to obtain 30 to 40% of the American electronic voting machine market as a result of Obama directing the then Attorney General to ensure his own re-election. In addition to uncovering how the Department of Justice helped Canada's Dominion acquire a firm foothold in the U.S., Simpson also found out from a Serbian journalist that Obama's Vice President, Joe Biden, visited Serbia in May 2009 to, quote, cut a deal to help Serbian hackers in Belgrade where he was visiting to get control of information about voting machines. Dominion has also made donations to the Clinton Foundation. On June 9th, Staple Street Capital was officially registered. The private equity firm was founded by Stephen Owens and Hutan Yagudzabe. A member of the operating executive board was William Kennard. All three were former employees of the Cargill Group. Kennard was also the chair of the Federal Communications Commission from 1997 to 2001 during the Clinton administration. Thus, he oversaw media and communications in the United States. Kennard donated to the Obama election campaign. From 2009 to 2013, Obama appointed him as the U.S. ambassador to the European Union. On November 7, 2020, the fourth day after the election, AT&T announced William Kennard as the new chairman of the board. AT&T is the largest provider of communication services in the United States. Plus, with its acquisition of Warner Media, AT&T controlled CNN and multiple TV networks. In July 2018, Staple Street purchased Dominion. This implied that Kennard commanded the company that determined election results and then had more sway over American public opinion after the election through AT&T. On December 20th, 2014, UBS NY arranged an investment of $200 million in Staple Street. Subsequently, on October 8th, 2020, UBS NY injected $400 million in Staple Street. Affiliate UBS Beijing was founded and controlled by Wang Qishan in 2006. At the same time, former CCP chairman Jiang Zemin and his grandson Jiangji Cheng, through Sequoia Capital's China branch, also took control of voting software developer Smartmatic, which is also related to Dominion. The Carlyle Group was founded in 1987. Investment tycoon George Soros became a limited partner at Carlyle in the mid-90s. Carlyle has been a force for globalization and has kept intimate partnerships with the CCP for a long time. After entering China in 2005, Carlyle played important roles in privatizing state-owned enterprises and witnessed how families of CCP elites stole from China.
It's a system whereby if you do not challenge the Chinese Communist Party's rule, if you don't challenge the party politically, and you abide by the Chinese Communist Party's mandates, whether you're a Chinese citizen or whether you're an American or whether you're a European, then you can essentially take advantage of the benefits provided by the Chinese Communist Party. So what they've done is essentially align Chinese Communist Party interest with the enablement of greed. And so they've done this in China. They've, they say in China to get rich is glorious. And in addition, they've been able to essentially incentivize the leaders of large tech companies, large financial institutions in the United States, the leaders of academic institutions, political leaders, and this is not just in the United States, but in democracies all around the world. And so essentially we face the destruction of the democratic order, but not at the hands of an adversary wielding nuclear weapons or with shock troops. It's really using our own tendency to essentially fall victim to greed. It's simple greed.
Well, China has a big stake in these elections. They've made it very clear they want to just get rid of President Trump. They're much more comfortable with Biden. So what they've done, they've had these networks for some time. But there are communist parties in America that owe allegiance to the Chinese Communist Party. I'm talking about Liberation Road and their subgroup called Left Roots, the Communist Party USA, and others. And what these groups have been doing for several years now is setting up voter registration groups in key states that could be flipped from Republican to Democrat, for instance. And what they do is that they deliberately set up these groups to target minority voters who lean Democrat but don't normally vote often. They call them low preponderance voters, low propensity voters. And so in Virginia, for instance, they've had New Virginia majority for some time. That's been working for over 10 years, and they take credit for flipping that state from Republican to Democrat. But this election now, they've run this out of San Francisco, a group called Seed the Vote. Now that is a front for the Chinese Progressive Association, which is a big voter registration group, community organizing group that's been based in San Francisco since the 1970s and has always been a tool of the Chinese Communist Party. So Seed the Vote has run a whole network of these big voter registration organizations, and they targeted 7 states this year: Arizona, Georgia, North Carolina, Florida, Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, all the key swing states. And so they signed up hundreds of thousands of low propensity voters, they got them to the polls, and they claim credit. They openly claim credit for winning the election for Biden, which is legal. You know, they're working legally in voter registration, but what is not legal is the fact that they're cooperating with the Communist Party of China and taking direction from the Communist Party of China.
Now, how can we prove that they're involved with the Chinese Communist Party?
Well, for instance, one of the key people of Seed the Vote is a man called Alex Tong. He's the past CEO of the Chinese Progressive Association in San Francisco. And he openly
Asians for Black Lives. Here we go.
About his deep connection
Communist
to the
subversion
Chinese
at its finest.
officials in San Francisco. He talks about how he has regular conversations with them. He runs his positioning past them. And this is the guy who is basically running some of these major voter registration organizations.
China has had a very important role in funding left experiments. And we have a relationship with the Chinese embassy. Like, we actually have I've had to have various conversations with them about our positioning.
On the other side of it, New Virginia Majority, they win their elections by using very sophisticated, what they call GIS, computer-generated maps. These are precinct maps, very, very specific, who will tell you the voter profiles in every district in Virginia, the ethnicity, the voting patterns, the income levels, so they can micro-target voters to get them to pick the voters they want. Well, these maps are generated by a man called Stephen McClure. He's a supporter of Liberation Road, the major pro-Chinese Communist Party behind this, and he works out of the geography department of Wuhan University in China. He is generating maps used to flip districts in Virginia and presumably other southern states as well, and he's working in a Chinese geography department using Chinese equipment, using Chinese computers, probably paid a salary by the Chinese Communist Party to basically interfere in American politics. So this is happening right under our very noses. You know, George Soros alone has put something like $18 billion into the left in the last 3 or 4 years. That buys a lot of votes. That sets up a lot of voter registration groups. That buys a lot of buses to ship people to the polls. Now, what these people are doing is legal, and that it's not illegal to sign up voters or get them to the polls. But they're working with organisations that definitely have histories of illegal voting activity, vote fraud. But the fact that they're working with entities connected to the Communist Party of China, that puts a whole different spin on it.
On December 9th, 2020, Biden's son, Hunter Biden, confirmed that he was under tax investigation by the U.S. Attorney's Office in Delaware. As a result, the Hunter Biden hard drive scandal that was temporarily suppressed during the run-up to the election has resurfaced. This investigation was launched due to suspicious activity reports regarding suspicious foreign transactions from China and other countries.
When I talk to people, what they're telling me, is there anything we reported?
December 9th, 2020, U.S. Senate committees released a bombshell report revealing alarming corruption in foreign business ventures involving former Vice President Joe Biden's son, Hunter. U.S. Senators Chuck Grassley, chairman of the Senate Finance Committee, and Ron Johnson, chairman of the Senate Homeland Security and Governmental Affairs Committee,
and his brother John Ronson,
90-page report titled Hunter Biden, Burisma, and Corruption, the Impact on U.S. Government Policy and Related Concerns. The report said, quote, the Senate Committee on Homeland Security and Governmental Affairs and the Senate Committee on Finance undertook this investigation into potential conflicts of interest and the involvement of the Biden family in foreign business ventures while Joe Biden was vice president. The committees found, quote, consistent, significant, and extensive financial connections among Biden family members and the Chinese Communist government. It states, quote, Hunter Biden and Devon Archer engaged in numerous financial transactions with Chinese nationals who had deep connections to the Communist Chinese government. It continues, quote, these Chinese nationals included Ye Jianming, founder of the CEFC China Energy Co. Ltd. And chairman of the board for its subsidiary, the China Energy Fund Committee. The report continues, stating, thus, there exists a vast web of corporate connections and financial transactions between and among the Biden family and Chinese nationals. It states, Hunter Biden has extensive connections to Chinese businesses and Chinese foreign nationals that are linked to the communist governments. These contacts bore financial fruit when his father was vice president and after he left office. The report warned that the investigation found the Obama administration knew about and ignored Biden's problematic position on the board.
Well, clearly, I think China believes that they have a much better relationship with a potential President Joe Biden. That's clearly, portrayed when you look at the immense amount of money that they funneled through to Hunter Biden. But that goes without saying, because the challenge they've had with President Trump has been the fact that he's been pressuring them on almost all fronts, whether it be trade or finance or immigration or theft of intellectual property. He's basically unleashed the federal government to go after the Chinese Communist Party. Now, this has been completely opposite to the approach taken by
got censored from Facebook, Danny?
Since Kissinger. And certainly...
Wait a minute. Got censored from Facebook. Are you saying that about me or what they were saying? Or you? Just clarify that, because if I'm not live on Facebook, I'd like to know. Looks like you're on Facebook from what I see, though.
Was counter to what I witnessed with the Obama administration, where Joe Biden was the vice president. So I think their clear incentive here is to reset the relationship between the U.S. and China in a way that promotes the Chinese Communist Party's interests.
On December 9th, 2020, YouTube announced, we will start removing any piece of content uploaded today or anytime after that misleads people by alleging that widespread fraud or errors changed the outcome of the 2020 U.S. presidential election. Also on December 9th, 2020, Mark Sarin outlined on social media how Facebook founder Mark Zuckerberg donated hundreds of millions of dollars to the Center for Tech and Civic Life right before the election.
What they did was, on September 2nd, Mark Zuckerberg, at the time he announced he was contributing $300 million. We think it's up to $500 million since then. He announced another $100 million weeks later to CTCL, the top 21 recipients of Zuckerberg grant money, which totaled $80 million, all went to Democrat-run cities where Hillary Clinton won by a large margin, in swing states primarily.
Well, I have a number of concerns when it comes to big tech. Twitter, for example, Twitter has been posting warning signs and, signs saying, you can't trust this content. There literally was a post a few days ago by President Trump referring to some of my work and to an appearance I made on a television show, the Tucker Carlson show. So Trump posted a link to that interview with me, and Twitter then attached a warning sign saying, the claims made here are fraudulent. So we have a number of problems here. We have multiple tech companies basically doing whatever they want to shift opinions however they please. That's the status quo right now. So following the election, their campaign, I guess we can call it a campaign, which is ironic, their campaign to control public opinion has not stopped. If anything, it's gotten worse.
The Trump phenomenon is what driving this whole thing. I think the media felt he was going to lose and lose badly. The polls were showing that he was going to lose and lose badly. So I think the assumption was on election night, they were going to interpret whatever news there was in that light. That the light was that Joe Biden was going to win. But this has been going on for 4 years.
One of the leaks from Google last year was of a computer application at Google, which is called Twiddler. And Twiddler is a system Google developed for re-ranking search results. I was told by the whistleblower who actually brought that manual out of the company, Zach Voorhees, I was told that if Google wanted to turn off the bias in search results that might favor one political candidate, for example, they could do so, he said, like flipping a switch. It's that easy. We also found what appears to be a smoking gun. We found a period of days before the election when the vote reminder on Google's homepage was going only to liberals. Not one of our conservative field agents got a vote reminder on those days.
The mainstream media in this country now is operating very much like the media used to operate in the Soviet Union or operates in communist China.
China has plenty of motivation to oppose the re-election of Donald Trump. In Donald Trump, you have the first American president in 50 years to stand up and defend American interests, defend American alliances, and defend American friends from Chinese predations. In Donald Trump, the Chinese finally met a global leader who would deny their goal of global hegemony. Therefore, the Chinese Communist Party had a direct and very strong interest in making sure, or doing whatever they could, to ensure that Donald Trump would be defeated in this election.
Please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Donald John Trump, do solemnly swear.
I, Donald John Trump, do solemnly swear.
Back in January 2017, only 19 minutes after Trump's inauguration, the Washington Post proclaimed, "The campaign to impeach President Trump has begun." Over the past 4 years, a hidden power has been plotting to implement schemes to oust Trump in a subversion attempt, yet each time these ended in failure. Now in 2020, we are witnessing the most serious, most widespread election fraud ever over the 244 years of American history.
We have put together, I think, the most extensive and inclusive voter fraud organization in the history of American politics.
People here right now are worried about the integrity of the American system. They're worried right now over whether the Supreme...
Hold on. I'm going to come back. Part 6. I like it. But I just happened to check this. Fortnite updates. I don't play Fortnite. Okay. I just saw this, and I have to share this with everybody.
Through these commercials to continue the conversation. The general has just told us that other countries' intelligence agencies have been were watching our election on November 3rd and have important intelligence to share with the United States. General, how soon can they provide that to the United States?
Well, I think that they'll provide it directly to the president once we present the evidence to him.
and to the, through the legal process that we have, and they're willing to do that from what we understand. In terms of these cyber attacks, so this is, we talk about foreign influence like it's some esoteric thing.
Right.
This is a direct intervention into our national security, into our ability to run our country the way we want to run it. This is when we say a cyber attack, that's exactly what it is. It's like any other weapon system that is attacking us. Only in this case, it's through information, it's through deception, it's through theft of that information. So we have to really take this seriously. I think that as a nation, I think a couple of things. So what to do about it? I think the team around the president needs to shore themselves up. I think that the political camps that we have in this country need to come together on this, because this is a very, very dangerous situation. We're in a dangerous period of time right now for our country. And I think that, in fact, I would say that I know that the American people are more than willing to support whatever the president decides to do in this regard, because we're talking about the safety and security, which is the principal responsibility for the president of the United States of the people of this country. And that is what is at risk.
I have no worries, people. Trump will be crossing the Rubicon. I also saw this. Hold on. Soros-backed groups offering $1,200 to vote Democrat? No. Meanwhile, in the left's alternate reality, country has been attacked by Russia, attacked a hostile, blatant act of aggression, and your president alternates between railing about an election he lost, golfing, and jerking off. Look at that. I wish I knew what you know, Patrick. You seemed eerily confident in Trump in the last interview I saw of you. I am indeed confident we'll win. If the president signs one piece of paper, that's it. The Insurrection Act, people. It's going to happen. Crossing the fucking Rubicon, people. It's here we go. It sounds like the president's going to implement the executive order. There is no clash between Secretary Steve Mnuchin and me. We're simply working together to resolve interagency mechanics of an important executive order. Look at that! There is no disagreement between Secretary Pompeo and I and me regarding the implementation of the president's executive order. We are coordinating closely on an interagency basis. This happened today, people. This happened today. It's a wrap, people. This is it. This is what the map's going to look like when we're done. That's it. Massachusetts? What the fuck? God damn it. If this is the real map, that fucking sucks. That fucking sucks for me. But who cares? But yeah, I just want to take a quick break, because they're about to talk about what we're going to do about it in the fight that's happening. And we definitely are in the middle of a fight. No question about that. What the fuck? Where's the thing? Here it is. We are in a fight. But at the end of the day, I know what's going to happen. And I told you all what's going to happen. We're crossing the Rubicon. There's no coming back from it. It is what it is. It's nice and centered.
Court will rule based on the Constitution and based on justice. They're worried that their concerns are not being heard.
NTD. I recommend everyone subscribe to that channel.
We don't see any police, no riot police. People are peacefully calling for justice to be restored to this country.
The year 2020. 400 years ago, the Mayflower brought the first groups of Protestants to America.
I did read that. Amen.
The year
Between election and COVID, it's crazy. I know, Danny, I can imagine.
Year since the symbolic birth of the United States through the Declaration of Independence. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. These truths have spread worldwide, inspiring patriots and becoming universal values. The year 2020, the 233rd year since the creation of the Constitution of the United States, establishing fundamental laws and guaranteeing basic rights of citizens, including the rights to life, liberty, and private property. Yet, if the 2020 presidential election was stolen by communist forces within and outside of America, then the separation of power among the three branches of government and a fair legal system would cease to exist. The freedom to elect would cease to exist. The freedom and equality of the American people would cease to exist. It would be an attempted coup to subvert the foundations upon which the United States of America was built. Communism would slam into the United States like a
That's looking to the
tsunami.
future. I very well may
America,
do that.
the beacon of democracy, would be extinguished, and the world would enter a dark age.
We are living now in a communist revolution, and 90% of Americans still don't understand this. So if this election fraud is allowed to stand, there will never be another free election in this country. Never. There will never be a chance to regain freedom.
They don't want to lose. They are 10 steps past us in every area of planning, strategizing, being purposeful, setting things up. In my heart, from studying Marxist and read all the main writings since Marx, I think they prefer if Trump is able to overturn this and they can do the revolution. They love destruction. That's the ultimate thing, like Vladimir Lenin said, we will have world communism through world revolution.
In a socialist communist society, there is no rule of law. There's only the rule of the state. So in America, you're protected by law. You can criticize the American president. You can criticize your congressman. He can't touch you because you have the First Amendment right to speak your mind. You can protect your family with your firearms. You have all sorts of legal protections. Under socialism, the only authority is the state. And the only right or wrong is what the state wants. So if you're in any way opposed to the state, if you in any way oppose the state's plans or not cooperate with the state's plans, you're an enemy of the people and you have no legal protection whatsoever. They can jail you, they can persecute you, they can take your job away, they can stop your kids going to school, they can deny you health care, they can do anything they want to you. And Americans need to understand the goal of the socialists in this country is complete tyranny.
If we just stand by and watch, what's happening in Hong Kong will be tomorrow's America.
China's parliament approved a decision to impose national security legislation on Hong Kong in a landslide vote on Thursday.
Taiwan and Hong Kong stand no chance against China without a strong, free U.S. And so we have to stand up for all of God's people of the world, not just the U.S.
Honesty should be the role. You know, the truth should be the role. That's the thing that's missing in this country right now is a passion for the truth.
Those people that are telling you right now that it is over are lying to you.
Every patriot should step forward. Let your voices be heard and be respected. During the American Revolution, the political philosopher and author Thomas Paine said, "These are the times that try men's souls." Today we are in such a time. In a lawsuit filed in the Supreme Court, Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton wrote, "Our country stands at an important crossroads. Either the Constitution matters and must be followed, even when some officials consider it inconvenient or out of date, or it is simply a piece of parchment on display at the National Archives. We ask the court to choose the former." On one hand, the American Constitution restricts presidential authority via Congress and the courts, but it also grants presidential prerogative powers. With these prerogatives, former American presidents took many key actions during some of the nation's most difficult times, and these actions are still remembered today.
Lincoln Insurrection Act.
President Trump has the authority to exercise the powers granted by the Constitution. Decisive emergency actions are necessary to deter this extensive attack.
We will not be tyrannized, we will not be demeaned, and we will not be intimidated by bad evil people. It will not happen.
Defending the Constitution, defending the foundation of democracy that defines America, is the duty of the American president, of every government official, and of every American citizen. No matter whether these destructive attacks are foreign or domestic. Hear the voice of Americans who love freedom and equality as their cries for justice resound above us.
They underestimated the American people. They underestimated the people who love this country and believe in the Constitution.
We are at the most crucial juncture in the history of our country. Nothing's even been close.
The 2020 U.S. election is no longer a contest between two parties, nor a contest between Trump and Biden. It is a battle between traditional values and communism, a battle between good and evil. We are not bystanders. We all play a role.
We have 80 million strong people that say we want freedom. We want to keep America great, and it's a battle worth fighting, and it's giving us all a very meaningful life of standing for the truth.
Americans need to understand this election will decide not just who's the president, it will decide the future of America and consequently the future of the world.
What every one of us can do is to first help the people around us understand the truth about the election fraud. Please share this documentary as widely as possible. By presenting the facts, we will break through censorship, and as Americans, we will not allow our country to be subverted by communist forces. Trump is not only confronting the CCP and fighting for the American people, he is fighting for all people who value freedom, truth, and tradition. We are not fighting for Trump. We are fighting for our future and the future of American freedom.
It's true, though. It's not about Trump. It's about we the people. That's it, man. Everybody needs to understand that this is the real deal. This is as true as it gets, people. Look at Trump. Congratulations, the Moderna vaccine is now available. Oh, okay. Moderna's not good from what I heard, though. That's Bill Gates. The Pfizer one. And I might have it backwards. Pfizer might be Bill Gates and Moderna is not. I don't know. This is Trump's gab. FedEx and UPS for driving the vaccine where it needs to go. But let's take one more look at Rising on the Donald as I save this to my informative category so I can pull it up if it doesn't come up afterwards, because I want that screenshot of those two tweets on my phone. But let's take a look at what else is rising. It says that other countries had their intelligence more than willing to share. There's fucking 2 of them. Happened with no warning, suddenly at 0 dark 30. There we go. Yeah, see, this guy knows. You go to bed, you wake up the next day, emergency broadcast system. Law enforcement has no jurisdiction until further notice. Do not approach or interfere with uniformed military personnel in your area. President of the United States will address the nation shortly. It's coming. That's what's happening. That's what will happen. This is exactly what it's going to look like. Exactly. That is crossing the Rubicon, folks. That is where we're at. And no one will know it's coming. It'll just happen. We can all make predictions and we can all say, I hope it's this day, I hope it's this day, I hope it's this day. None of us know. And we'll find out one way or another. Barry Soetoro planned a coup d'etat. John Brennan, James Clapper hacked the Chief Justice of the U.S. Supreme Court, John Roberts, and the head of the FISA court, Reggie Watson. Hacked by Obama officials. Look at this. So he's been compromised. We'll look at this in a bit. Actually, I'll look at it right now. Deep state surveillance operation overseen by Obama, Director John Brennan, Obama, and National Security. Wow. Know what the head of the FISA court hacked into? John Roberts, Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, was hacked. Delivered to the FBI 47 hard drives and data amounting to more than 6 million pages of documentation on the surveillance scheme. There's been a wiretap on Trump for years. Yeah, he's compromised. He's a piece of shit. He's a piece of shit. So yeah, I'm just going through the Donald, seeing if anything new and amazing happened. Only because last time I got off and it was like, Texas lawsuit is gone. So I just don't want to get off right now having no idea what the hell happened. I'm actually going to click on new just so I can know what's actually new. We are waiting. Everyone knows he's crossing the Rubicon. Everyone on the Donald is ready for this now. Please sign the petition for martial law. He needs to know that he has our support, people. Just like Julius Caesar. He has to know that the people support him and the military supports him. We are the many. We outnumber the few. The few who are controlling us are outnumbered. Trump is there to get this country back from these people for us. Again, manipulated by China and the like. Corrupt communists and globalists who want to see our country fall. Is there a possibility it could be enacted without making it public immediately? Maybe. Who knows? None of us know what's going to happen. Listen, none of us know. But the one thing we do know is when there's military outside, you're going to have to get that emergency broadcasting system broadcast that's going to tell you this. Because you will be shot on sight. And you will be looked at as an insurgent if you approach or attack these people. Get your protection in your house and protect your home. That's what you're going to need to do. That's why I think it might be Christmas. Don't sleep. Everything's already closed and everyone's home with their families. We're going to know where to find people. Everyone's going to be sitting around with their families seeing this on the emergency broadcasting system on Christmas Day. Could you imagine? Merry fucking Christmas. Talk about a Merry Christmas. It'd be a red Christmas. But yeah, people, it's going to be wild. Just know that. It's going to be wild. I'm going to leave you with this. If you tuned in late, if you tuned in during the documentary, if you were in and out, go back to what I was talking about the beginning, crossing the Rubicon. Look up Executive Order 13848. Read it for yourself. Understand how we got here. Understand that there is no other option. Donald Trump will not break his oath to protect the Constitution. He will not do it. There is a constitutional crisis. The Supreme Court failed to act when it was their responsibility to do so. It is now time for the Insurrection Act. It's that simple. It's that simple, people. Have you heard anything about the AstraZeneca vaccine? I've heard a bunch of them. I haven't heard anything specific about AstraZeneca. By the way, I tried to share this YouTube link. That documentary is called Who's Stealing America? It's on my Facebook page. I shared it in the chat for YouTube, apparently only, which is funny because I actually thought I shared it on Facebook. So maybe I didn't share it on Facebook. Maybe I tried and it didn't work. But with that being said, everybody, I want to thank you. This was probably the most important show I ever did. The date is December 18th, 2020. This is before any of this happens. So after this happens, we can all look back at this video and I could talk about, remember when I told you all that was going to happen? This is that video that says that. Because I'm sure that it's going to happen. And you should be sure of it too. Continue to go to work, make money for your family, provide for your family, obviously stock up, make sure that you are prepared for some sort of emergency because it's not only possible, it's likely. You probably will be in a situation for a period of at least potentially days, could be weeks or months, depending on how people react to things, where you're stuck in your homes, depending on where you live also. Yeah, it's going to be a wild experience, people. It's going to be wild. It's going to be something you tell your kids about, but you know what? You're going to have kids that grow up in a free country because of it. And you're going to be thankful for this moment. And you're going to be thankful that I told you what was going to happen before it happened. We are crossing the Rubicon. I thank all of you for joining. Make sure you like and subscribe to whatever platform you like. and then go in the comments of the video. Thank you, brother. I will always keep up the good fight. I am here to do this as long as it needs to be done. I don't give a fuck about much else. I don't give a fuck about what people think. I don't give a fuck about what anybody's saying. This is fucking reality. I am here to let people know. Great show. Hope you and your family enjoy your Christmas. I absolutely will. I will be back. Is next Friday Christmas? Hold on. Am I going to go live at 5 on Christmas? Good Lord, next Friday's Christmas. That's interesting. I am probably not going to go live on Christmas. So what I'll do is I will go live on Saturday. Unless something so crazy happens on Christmas, like this executive order and the Insurrection Act, and I'm stuck in my house, then I'm definitely going live. If this shit happens, whenever it goes down, as long as the internet is up, I'm going live. If the internet is down, I'm going live as soon as the internet comes back. You bet you're actually, no, I'm probably not going to go live as soon as it comes back. I'm probably going to do a little bit of research, see what I can find on what happened and what people are saying and what updates we have. And then once I have updates, I'm going to go live. But, yeah, I'm here to let you people know this is no joke. The Insurrection Act is coming. Prepare. Prepare your families. Tell people. Let people know. Just like with the coronavirus. When the coronavirus came, who were the only people in the United States media that were talking about it is the Epic Times, and they were barely even United States media. And they were warning as it was happening. This many cases. This was discovered. Whistleblower says it was created in a lab. This was discovered about the strain. RNA comes, they were the ones giving the updates. Spread to Italy, spread to this country. No one in the American media wanted to talk about it. Epic Times was telling you. Epic Times also said, we're going to go ahead and recommend Trump enact the Insurrection Act. What we need to do is we need to enact martial law with the Insurrection Act and get all the vote information, get all the tabulators, Dominion, every other one, get every single ballot, and find out what was real and what was fake, track down who did it. Everybody that worked the polls, everybody that signed up to do this, everybody, they're all going to be held responsible. If you know someone that worked at a poll in one of these corrupt places, they might be brought in for questioning. There's no doubt about that. That is a very realistic possibility. Know this. But hell yeah. Great show. So yes, like I said, I might go live on Christmas Eve, Christmas Day. I will definitely go live the day after. An emergency situation, something crazy happening will get me to go live. But just understand, people, I've been waiting my whole life for this moment to know that we're going to get our country back and have freedoms. And these people, the same people that would fake an attack on the Twin Towers and kill American citizens to further manipulate and control you, are the same people that are behind all this other stuff that are going to be brought in as traitors. Do not think that anyone is getting left out. Bush Jr., there will be multiple United States presidents and spouses of presidents brought in on these tribunals, for sure. I'm willing to bet my life on it. But with that being said, this video is my legacy. I have no plans of killing myself. I love you all and thank you all. I will continue to do this as long as it's humanly possible. As long as I still have the ability. If my channels go down, I will create new channels. If all the channels go down, I will go on DLive or some sort of independent place where I can stream video. I will do everything in my power to make sure I'm still able to do this. And keep telling people the truth. And I suggest you guys all do the same. Who's Stealing America by the Epic Times, EPOCH, is the documentary that we watched. But just share this stream. I didn't pause it too many times. Just share the stream. Have them watch this. Well, all right, everybody. Stay safe. I'm out.